waiting for 3 hours with no word. They've been gone for 2 hours. Do you think something might have happened? But this has caught the attention of the young master. Saying something like that at a time like this, doesn't that mean something will definitely go wrong? If you complain again, I won't teach you. Seeing this, the young leader helplessly said, I'll learn. I just don't know how master is doing. Upon hearing this, Xiaokuei also showed a shy expression and replied to Sister Dan, to take brother Lin Feng to town to get medicine and buy clothes. Xiaokuei tilted his head and uncertainly replied, maybe, probably, perhaps it can be mastered. This made the young master shout angrily, if you don't know how to teach, then don't teach recklessly. Xiaokuei, however, does not indulge him. She retorted that brother Lin Feng has gone mad. You have to learn. He helped him leave. Not sure how long, not sure where. At this moment, Xiaokuei is teaching the young master martial arts. As the young master threw punches, he questioned if this could really master the 9-in white bone claw. At this moment, the person on the ground stirred slightly. Then, they heard the sound of the piercing arrow. Seeing this, Dan immediately shouted for the foolish young leader to take Lin Feng and leave first. They would catch up later. Then he tossed a pill to Xiaokuei and told him to take it. The ancient king's sword was stained with poisonous blood. But then he collapsed to the ground, utterly exhausted. And just like that, it happened. He kept cursing Lin Feng, that fool, and the monk who took away his poison. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in such a dire state. He then took out the ancient king's sword. Afterward, he used the sword to cut open his palm. Suddenly, a rich aroma filled the air. Those nearby smelled it and immediately collapsed to the ground. At this moment, he appeared exceptionally handsome, telling him to take those two idiots away first. He wanted to show these guys the power of the poison immortal's bone. He immediately took out a small bottle of medicine and poured it into his mouth. Instantly, fragrant sweat broke out on his body. While they were chatting, two thunderbolts approached behind Xiaokuei. In an instant, they blew his back apart. Xiaokuei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, signaling that he was fine. But he saw Dan standing in front of him, but Xiaokuei slashed it apart. Dan praised him for being really impressive. Xiaokuei happily said that although his internal strength was weak, his physical skills were decent. It's just that the young master's sword was a bit heavy. With a loud bang, they exploded. But the smoke was instantly sliced open. Xiaokuei pulled Dan and rushed out. At that moment, someone leapt out of the woods. Holding a thunderbolt pellet, they kept throwing it at them. The people from the pavilion immediately threw poison pills at them. After being poisoned, the scoundrel declared that dealing with a few of you was more than enough. Just then, a flurry of thunderbolts suddenly flew at him from the trees by the roadside. In an instant, they landed at his feet. He looked back at the two who were withdrawn. What the hell is this mess? Suddenly, a battle cry came from behind. Two heroes charged at them with swords raised. He hurriedly turned around and struck a pose. He felt his pulse and found it very chaotic. And his mental state is really bad now. At that moment, the sound of fireworks exploded in the sky. He turned around to look. It turned out to be the heroes signaling their companions with arrows. The master clearly told me that martial arts have no good or evil. But his memory suddenly became chaotic. His master's words slowly faded away. This made him forget whether his master really said that. The one who rushed to Lin Feng's side was trying to grab him. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? You've scared everyone away. What kind of hero are you supposed to be? The confused Lin Feng mutters to himself. It shouldn't be like this. You think looking menacing makes you a hero? But you scared the bystanders away, and they all ran off. He was left dumbfounded for a moment. Dan came running up from behind him, and rubbed salt into the wound. At this moment, a burly man threatened Xiaokuei with a knife, demanding her to step aside. Otherwise, he would cut her down as well. Just then, Lin Feng rushed in front of him, and with a punch, sent him flying. As long as there is goodwill in the heart, the martial arts you practice will be the right path. Lin Feng, having understood the martial arts, burst into laughter. He activated his dark powers and gestured to the nearby kid, indicating that he was the true hero. But this scared the child, who immediately burst into tears. Remember, martial arts has no right or wrong. The heart is clouded by illusions. Do not be swayed by worldly perceptions. Martial arts has no right or wrong. The heart is clouded by illusions, erasing the distinction between good and evil in martial arts. All you've learned in your life is overwhelmingly powerful. Don't ever be confused. Otherwise, there will be no redemption. And thus, they were despised. But you're different. I think you can become a legendary master, famed across the land for your demonic skills, harshly slapping the faces of everyone in the world. When these martial arts were first created, they were purely martial arts, but those who used them lacked strong will, succumbing to the overwhelming force, which turned them into demonic arts. It's nothing more than a trick to light a cigarette. The martial arts I taught you are all stained with blood. Although your father did offer an impressive price, it's still not enough for me to teach a child so many supreme demonic arts. Defeat the Yuan army. The other is the fire disc technique of the fire serpent sect from the western regions a century ago. The 10 guardians of the fire serpent sect used this technique to burn 72 people from a village to ashes, to celebrate the leader's birthday. But now in my hands. Did you notice? I just used both righteous and evil techniques. One is the dragon and salmon hand of the late Yuan dynasty. The master used this move to poison the enemy and support 80 elite troops, instantly turning the tide of battle. Then, wielding martial skills invokes emotions. But as long as one strikes with the intent to kill, they are all techniques of destruction. Then I spit out flames, igniting the smoke rod. His master's teachings to him. In the world of martial arts, there is no distinction between good and evil. There is only a balance between yin and yang. Some martial arts are learned by beginners. Some martial arts are practiced by seasoned warriors. He really wanted to step in at that moment, but his body wouldn't obey him. This made him shout inwardly, "Master, what should I do?" Then he remembered when he was resting after practicing martial arts as a child. She kept waving her hands to indicate they meant no harm. Let them go. At this moment, Ying Dan also shouted angrily at Lin Feng, "What's wrong with you? Do you want to see them beaten to death?" Lin Feng could only say, "I'm sorry." In an instant, he was sent flying again. The strong man remarked that although he had decent internal strength, he was still so weak. Then he walked toward him, suspecting there was some conspiracy. "Come on, confess honestly." Seeing this, Xiao Kuei hurried out. With a pale face, he signaled to Ying Dan that he couldn't make a move. This confused Ying Dan, who shouted, "What?" And at that moment, the sound of the young leader's scream echoed. He was struck in the abdomen with the hilt of a knife. The little boy beside him instantly teared up, it was so scary, and his mother gestured for him to keep quiet. "They'll kill us." How similar the scene was to when he first entered the world of crime. Unconsciously, he stopped using his dark arts. Then he mentioned that he left in a hurry. He forgot to show him his moves. This made Ying Dan furious, asking what right he had to complain. He should hurry and help. But when he began to channel his magic, his weapon is knocked out of his hand. Seeing this, everyone is petrified. Sighing, he feels so weak. Even he thinks he is so weak. Lin Feng also complained, saying it's really weak. At this time, the young alliance leader takes the lead and draws his sword. The strong man is not intimidated. He draws his sword and signals him to come at him. Then both of them charge at each other. The young alliance leader is knocked away by a strike from the strong man. Then he pointed to the young leader of the demonic sect, Xiao Xiao. "Today, you won't return." The little boy looked at him blankly, wondering if they could get someone else to save them. Wenzi can only comfort him, there's no need to be picky at this moment. This has caused the passing crowd to speculate about what to do with the demonic sect. "Run, little boy." He threw himself into his mother's arms, crying out, "I'm so scared." At that moment, a strong man appeared. He placed his hand on the woman's shoulder. He comforted her, saying, "The Martial Arts Association will protect everyone." This man was originally the deputy leader of the Righteous Sword Alliance. Now he is proclaiming himself a disciple of the demonic sect. He draws his sword at the slightest disagreement. Two warriors also take their stances, ready to confront the enemy. "Haven't you seen the demon sect before? Do you believe I will cut you down?" Lin Feng helplessly covered his face. At this moment, passers-by are saying to take them down. This made Lin Feng burst into tears instantly. Why? Why exactly? He had already been careful enough. Why is there even a wanted notice? At this moment, the young leader next to him suddenly shouted at the passerby, "What are you looking at?" It's just because the boss said it would cost extra to help Lin Feng with makeup. This made the young leader so angry that he wanted to smash the shop. In a flash, it was 15 days later, outside Baishui City. He couldn't bear to glance at Lin Feng. "Haven't you given up yet?" But it wasn't good to discourage him. She could only take him to the makeup shop to try their luck. Let's see if there are any cheap ones. However, when entering, they were friendly. When leaving, they were dragging the young leader out. "Can you stop being so perfunctory?" But this couldn't extinguish his passion. He wanted to transform himself into a true hero from the inside out. Then he reached out to Yingdan for 1,000 taels to buy clothes and cosmetics. This made Yingdan so angry she almost spat blood. "Can't you just keep these thoughts to yourself?" But then he cheerfully said he'd recently grasped the key to being a hero. From now on, he shouldn't be mistaken for a villain. Yet Yingdan only responded with a soft In an instant, tears filled his eyes again. "I guess the effects of the drug haven't worn off yet. Your mind is still stuck in the martial world. Even more absurdly, you claim that no matter how people misunderstand, it's definitely your fault." Lin Feng was instantly in tears. So everyone had no choice but to tie him up. They gagged him and had Xiao Kuei lead him. Lin Feng, who was walking in front, asked Yingdan, "Are we going to keep him tied up like this? People might misunderstand if they see." Then they heard Yingdan reply, "Keep him tied for now." Lin Feng had no choice but to knock him out with a hand chop. Ing Dan was even harsher, saying this kid is useless. Let's kill him and eat his meat. Of course, that was just a joke. However, when the young master woke up, he kept doing the same thing. Lin Feng and the other were instantly speechless. However, what's even more ridiculous is, on the road ahead, the young sect leader was crazily jumping up and down, and laughing non-stop. Then their faces flushed slightly, suggesting that these two might. At that moment, two people were seen approaching. Xiao Kuei raised her hand to signal, looking at the two people coming closer, especially the young alliance leader's outfit. Lin Feng naturally didn't care for it. He was just puzzled that the young master dragged Xiao Kuei out early in the morning. Why haven't they come back yet? They originally planned to set off after breakfast. It's almost lunchtime now. I have no idea where I am, said Ing Dan, thinking they better leave before his father noticed. The next day, Ing Dan weighed the 10 taels of silver given by the master. Smiling, he said, the master is quite generous. Except he keeps asking if there's any aftereffects on my lung power. As for this small amount of money, seeing the young leader looking around, it seemed like he heard someone speaking. Lin Feng and the others suddenly turned gloomy. They should make sure Lin Feng doesn't tell the leader for now. However, just as the words fell, they saw the young master drooling and mumbling to himself. Can it really be mastered just by sleeping like this? Why don't I? There are actually techniques that can be mastered just by eating and sleeping. However, there might be some side effects after mastering them. For example, auditory hallucinations may occur. Seeing this, the leader thanked them. Then he closed the door. Standing at the door, he smiled and thought it was great. Hier was actually about to become a martial arts master all of a sudden. This magic skill is truly amazing. He inquired about what was happening. Lin Feng hurriedly replied that everything was fine. Zhuge Hang is really suited for practicing demonic arts. Ding Dan also echoed that there was no need to worry. With him taking care of his health, there would be no problem. What kind of hero do you think you are? After saying that, he raised his fist and was about to hit him. Fortunately, the sound of the leader's footsteps came from outside. Then, the sound of the door opening was heard. The leader, upon entering, saw Ing Dan and Lin Feng by the bed. Or the star absorption technique, that would have been better. Even if it was the sunflower manual, I could have figured something out. Zhuge's precious son was stunned. Now we have to run again. This instantly reminded Lin Feng of his master's instructions. He wouldn't dare touch these things himself. Just kill him. Ing Dan immediately slapped him angrily on the head. Then, grabbing his collar, he shouted in anger, why didn't you teach him something like the Great Heaven and Earth Shift? And your technique is very suspicious, from its name to its steps. This demonic absorption method is already trying to break into the divine court. Why do you need to use this kind of medicine? Then, putting his arm around Lin Feng's shoulder, he said, these are all used by the monks from Yunnan. It might drive you insane. In reality, Lin Feng also looked at him with a puzzled expression. It can't be that bad. At the start of practicing the heavenly demon internal technique, there are indeed many hallucinations. But I only practiced the heart demon chapter for 1 hour. Seeing this, I should scold you and say, is that you? Closing his eyes tightly, it felt like some wild beast was sniffing him in the dark. It made him break out in a cold sweat. What on earth is happening? Master, help! What the hell are you talking about? Who are you? Then he realized. Why did he say again? But right after that, he lay down. Then there was nothing more. When he opened his eyes again, an old man said, very good. The contract is fulfilled. That made him excited instantly. He said, you finally woke up. He also stated that they were about to be executed. This left him completely confused. However, a roar from the sky startled him awake. He looked up in surprise. Then he let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. But then he suddenly woke up. Thank goodness it was just a dream. At that moment, someone nearby called out to him. He looked over. Then let's get started quickly. He then turned to look at him. Learn the sunflower manual. This startled the young leader. He instantly covered himself. I don't know how long it's been. The young leader drowsily opened his eyes. Sitting up, he saw someone playing the piano. That person sensed the movement behind him. He indicated that you are awake. The young master safely landed his face right beside him. Ing Dan, jolted, pulled Xiao Kuei along and offered an additional Western attachment treatment. All the alliance leader needs to do is cover our food and lodging for the next few days. This left the alliance leader looking ashen-faced. What kind of group is this? His meridians will remain intact. In a moment, I'll use the poison immortal bone secret technique to repair his meridians. I guarantee it'll be even better than the original. I'll give you a more lively and vigorous little brother. Just as those words were spoken. Seeing the scene pill should ease his mind. Lin Feng is now using the ghost nursery rhymes in peak palm to sever his meridians, breaking the flow of qi. With Lin's current power, as long as your son doesn't circulate his energy, he is willing to endure the pain of dislocation and fracture, and his father does not stop him. He just expresses some concern to Ing Dan beside him. If his internal energy is abolished like this, will his meridians be damaged? It means the little disciple. I'm here to help you loosen your muscles and bones. He was originally the young master of the Righteous Sword Alliance, yet now he is actually turning to the embrace of the demonic sect, to abandon his righteous inner strength. You don't even know martial arts. What the hell is the point of internal energy? Then, he instructed Lin Feng to use his internal energy to practice the magical technique again. Isn't that just a piece of cake? At this moment, Lin Feng's expression was ferocious. Hasn't shamed you. Then he strikes his chest. However, in an instant, he was left with a face full of confusion. This made Lin Feng and the others burst into laughter. Ying Dan even mocked, "Kid." The young lord of the alliance suddenly bursts into a rage, grabs the leader by the collar. "Today, I leave the Sword Alliance. I'll return the internal martial arts manual to you." He then steps back, raises his right hand. With tears in his eyes, he says, "Mother, your son." Then he turned to Lin Feng and the others and apologized. "I'm sorry for making you laugh." But he was instantly dumbfounded. Ying Dan then signaled for you to continue. "Don't mind them. The righteousness of killing kin. Even his own wife can be killed." Lin Feng and the others continued to say that this melon is really delicious. But the leader angrily told the young leader to shut up. What kind of manner is this in front of the guests? Meanwhile, the leader is anxiously explaining that your mother's situation is not what you think, but I can't tell you yet. At this time, Lin Feng and the others say the melon is really sweet. The young leader continues to shout nonsense. What you care about is not the reputation of the dignified leader of the Sword Alliance. Truly, you are the leader of Zhuge. Such careful plotting. Mother's ties to the demonic sect. Is that how you embarrass yourself? At this moment, Xiao Kuei gestures to Lin Feng with a fruit platter, asking if he wants to eat some melon. He can't learn the demonic arts at all. And this made the young leader, who appeared behind him at some point, realize the truth. No wonder you were so straightforward back then. Give me the mental cultivation method. It was to ensure I could never be like mother. He doesn't want to learn orthodox martial arts. I know that he has been secretly practicing the inner strength of the dripping water sword, because he hopes to one day learn demonic techniques. And therein lies the problem. The inner strength of the dripping water sword is derived from the fragmented verses of Wudong's Joyang inner strength, embodying masculine righteousness and self-protection. He had something to entrust to him. Lin Feng, receiving the books, discovered they were sword manuals. At this moment, I heard the leader say, "I know that someone like you, a master, looks down on this kind of martial arts, but it's very important for Hanger, because of some old matters." However, the leader awkwardly touched his pocket, indicating that he didn't have that much silver on him. He said he would get it for them after they set off. Then he took out 2 books, and gestured for Lin Feng to take them. He even said that the entire Sword Alliance didn't have that much silver. Lin Feng was confused. Is 5,000 taels a lot? It's just his monthly pocket money. But Ying Dan was much more rational. Extending a hand costs 15 taels. There's still some distance to the nearest bank. He said that before this, he wanted to borrow some money from Alliance leader Zhuge. However, when the leader heard that Lin Feng wanted to borrow 5,000 taels, he was shocked. He thought Lin Feng was going to raise an army and rebel. He's the young master of the bank. Originally, his father wanted to name him Dogshit, but his mother beat him up for it. So they changed it to Dog Lingfeng. At this moment, Lingfeng is looking at the map in his hand. With a solemn expression, he took out a book. What could shock the girl so much that her mouth turned triangular? It was naturally because of the man who had accompanied her through the martial world. Turns out he's a dog of the Empire's top merchant guild. He represents the merchant guild and the leading bank. Once I'm gone, no one will remember my mother anymore. Isn't that exactly what you wanted? Then, he left without even looking back. The leader sighed helplessly. Then, he opened a hidden compartment. The young leader was also angry, replying, "Until you roll over and apologize to my mother." Seeing this, the Lord cursed him as an ungrateful child. "Don't you dare mention your mother again. As for you leaving with brother Lin Feng." But before he could finish, he was interrupted. "Stop talking nonsense." No one knew who the leader was referring to. But at the same time, the other Chang Wang couldn't help but sneeze. The next day, the young leader explained to his father that he wanted to follow his master to explore the martial world. But Lord Zhuge pointed at him and angrily shouted, "How long are you going to keep sulking with me?" Seeing them playing dumb, Lin Feng couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Zhuge, who are you talking about?" This instantly left Alliance leader Zhuge in shock. "Senior, who are you calling uncle?" And just like that, the topic was interrupted. Besides, he's definitely not that kind of person. At this point, the master also spoke up in agreement. "I don't believe it either. I've heard quite a bit about him at the Martial Arts Association. But it's all about how to get rid of him. It seems that there is more to these golden eyes. That one-eyed iron-handed hero was just giving away his iron palm. But he's already the chief of the Martial Arts Association conference hall. So how could there still be someone in the association that he treats with such respect?" Then he pondered, saying, "I've only ever heard of one person with golden eyes. But his figure doesn't match." Mr. Inglong was tall, and wore a mask and hat with huge feet. He also had a pair of golden eyes that were even more unusual than his mother's. The old man treated him with great respect. Hearing this, Lord Zhuge frowned, leaving him to wander ever since. After listening to Xiao Kuei's story, the master couldn't help but exclaim how powerful the Wulin Association truly is. Meanwhile, Alliance leader Zhuge asked Xiao Kuei about the appearance of Mr. Ring Long and his group. Xiao Kuei said he remembers a one-eyed old man with a long beard, who wore a metal paper cover on his hand. Then no one has to die. The outcome is predictable. Soon after, Xiao Kuei came to the mainland to seek refuge with the Wu family. But the Wu family feared that taking him in would provoke the Wulin Association, so they drove him out of the Wu family. He is also Tian Junzi Wu Qingru, the eldest son of the Wulin Wu family. The other is the holy servant of the Europa Central Church, the top medical expert of the Western Empire. Mr. Ringlong even glanced at little Kuei, who was hiding under the floor looking for toys, implying that as long as they leave with him today. However, this also brought trouble. One day, members of the Martial Arts Association came to invite them to plot for power. He also revealed their true identities. One is the top disciple of Wudong, the only master of the Taiji sword. On the island, he discovered a dilapidated Taoist temple called Bio Palace. He established a cult there with the survivors of the disaster. With his martial arts skills and Western medicine from his French wife, this newly formed cult thrived. It became renowned among the martial arts community as a celestial palace. His golden hair, indicating a hidden compensation. He will tell them everything he knows without reservation. And all of this dates back to 10 years ago. Panglai Island was actually discovered and named by the first disciple of Wudong. He was washed ashore on a deserted island due to a shipwreck. A flustered Xiao Kuei hurriedly explained. "This is not what everyone imagines." However, the reason he came to the Central Plains is indeed related to the Martial Arts Association. He then removed the wig to reveal a living immortal. "Xiao Kuei, can you fly? Are you already thousands of years old? Can those chickens you raised as humans still lay eggs? Can you give me a couple of those eggs?" All she could think of were the 8 words, "There is a call, no tears." Countless immortals have come to pay their respects. After realizing it, she gasped in surprise. Then he grabbed Xiao Kuei by the shoulders. His eyes gleamed as he said, "An immortal from the Jie sect." The master chuckled and said that the young benefactor's surname is Wu. His home is actually Panglai Island. This made Xiao Kuei instantly happy. There really is someone who knows his situation. At this moment, Ying Dan was dumbfounded. This made Xiao Kuei immediately crouch down and cry. However, the master didn't ridicule him. He even said 4 words, "No tears, just calls." Xiao Kuei was instantly surprised. All the immortals came to pay their respects. He feared that if he spoke out, everyone would laugh at him, but he faced the aggressive Ying Dan. Yet he blushed and claimed to be a deity. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then they collectively couldn't help but laugh. A person from the Jinyui. Further ahead is the little sister from the Tianshu gang of the Li family village. Then go further. At this moment, he was already covered in cold sweat. His eyes were glistening with tears. This caused him to show an awkward yet polite smile. He then stated that his name was Wu Su Kuei. He was a little follower of Lingfeng Ying Dan. But Ying Dan wouldn't be so easily fooled. Go further? Wang Chang had previously exchanged letters with him. They say that behind the Martial Arts Association is probably the Eastern Depot. But at that moment, Xiao Kuei shouted that it was impossible. Seeing this, the leader Zhuge asked him who he was. What did he mean by that? With an IQ of 50, and after a moment finally recalled, with a gasp, that it was someone named Deng Yunfeng. Who mentioned it? He then added that although Deng Yunfeng was investigating the Martial Arts Association, it was clear from his words that Wang Chang was struggling against the Eastern Depot. He heard Lord Zhuge say that this was indeed the case. Now is not the time to hesitate. Besides, this matter is not without a solution. He then asked everyone if they knew King Chang. Lin Feng said he seemed to have heard someone mention it. He quickly turned his highly intelligent mind. They are the Wulin Association. After hearing the master's story, Ying Dan looked grim. I should have just stayed hidden inside the poison Immortal Valley. But Lord Zhuge is not one to back down. Since we are enemies, suddenly, it becomes a catastrophe. During this time, they do not consider the consequences. They widely recruit talent from all directions. Aside from a few methods, the rest are all talents for conquering and plundering. There exists such an organization in this world. They'll use any means necessary to recruit masters of all kinds. But these experts are merely tools for them to acquire strategic power. They send these experts to assassinate important figures everywhere. They intimidate and entice to force submission. The memories that follow are blurry. I only remember taking my disciples to some place in the northwest. We were enchanted by a few strangely dressed people. After that, things became even hazier. I obeyed their every word. Lin Feng shouted, I didn't expect the effects to be this powerful. Then the master revealed everything he knew. It turned out he was captured and practiced the great shifting of the universe. Then he fell into a devil's path. disoriented, praising his miraculous skills. A healer for the world. The reincarnation of Hua Tuo. Human heart, human skill. To save the dying and heal the wounded. He committed an unforgivable sin. If any of you benefactors have questions, I will speak truthfully and hold nothing back. I will hide nothing. Seeing this, Ying Dan kept slapping Lin Feng continuously. Seeing this, Xiao Kuei was petrified. By now, the evil monk had turned into a grand master. Everyone who saw this was in awe. Inside Juga Mansion is completed. The master, who has come to a sudden realization, tells everyone that he was previously deceived. At this moment, striking a heroic pose, he felt more and more like a martial arts master. Then he pointed at the evil monk. He remarked that using martial arts that don't harm the body feels really awkward. Then, he shot towards the evil monk. A 1-meter wide beam of light instantly pierced through the evil monk's body. Lin Feng was full of questions, like be careful of what? Then he saw Xiao Kuei's exhausted look. Like after intense physical exertion. So he patted him gently and sincerely said, "You've worked hard. Leave the rest to me." Told her to use it on him. He would enhance it using the great shift of heaven and earth and transfer it to the master, allowing Xiao Kuei to continue circulating her technique. Then pointed at Lin Feng. And gestured for him to be careful. Watching him use all his strength just to touch the finger. You must immediately use the one young finger to simultaneously seal his meridians. Rushed by Lin Feng, Xiao Kuei was so nervous that she trembled all over. She said her internal energy is weak. She can only use it once. Hearing this, Lin Feng. Everyone was anxiously pacing around. Just as he was about to explain, the wicked monk suddenly burst into tears. Seeing this, Lin Feng anxiously said, "This is bad. The master can't hold on much longer." But how does Xiao Kuei also know this legendary skill? Facing Ying Dan's questioning, Xiao Kuei broke into a cold sweat, and stammered, unable to give a proper explanation. But it's normal for Ying Dan to know. After all, the poison immortal studies medical techniques to cure and save lives. He's familiar with all kinds of medical classics, but it's just theoretical knowledge, since he can't apply it without inner strength. He then signaled to the crowd, asking who could perform the one young finger. The young alliance master retorted that not everyone was as miraculous as he was. How could anyone possibly know such a legendary skill? However, it was instantly a slap in the face. Both Ying Dan and Xiao Kuei raised their hands to indicate they knew it. At this moment, Lin Feng continuously struck the demon monk's acupoints with relentless force. It was as if he intended to dismantle and reorganize him without mercy. Then, with a single finger, he sent him flying. At this point, the demon monk's appearance was no longer as menacing as at the beginning, but he was still one step away from defeat. Not as good as the previous one. Let him finish learning and then roll away. This man, who is 19 years old, actually knows the legendary floating fist. He can transform a fierce, evil monk into a compassionate, enlightened master. The divine finger laughs heartily. He exclaims 3 good words. After a moment, looking at the practicing young man is like a girl admiring a daughter. "What do you think of this?" The girl said it still. "He's already 500 years old." At this moment, a young man at the bottom of the abyss opens his eyes in confusion. Immediately, an old man and a young man come into view. He quickly gets up and angrily shouts, "Divine finger! Senior, please start teaching me martial arts right away." He expressed how troublesome it was. "The divine paper might not even be as good as my hemolytic paper," someone exclaimed in surprise. Moron Lian's hemolytic paper was then slapped on the head by someone next to him. Moron Lianha must stay alive. Training points like this are our only chance to learn divine skills. He laughed and said, "It's cold now. It's the off-season, and there are only 12 people ahead of you." However, Lin Feng saw that he had to wait in line. Turned around and left. There's a divine finger under the cliff of Sheath. If a senior falls down and is saved, they can learn divine skills. The mental techniques and methods of the divine skills can be memorized in 7 days. After initiation, one can improve on their own. We're all unaffiliated individuals without sex. Who knows, the senior might like it. The young leader took the note and asked, "What's this?" The person said, "It's for queuing." Then they looked confused. I couldn't help but ask, "You don't know?" He signaled to save only one person. The person saw Lin Feng's fierce face, and was a bit scared, but still handed them a note. Since they were here anyway, might as well give it a try. Then they ran towards them. They said it had been a long time since newcomers came. They rushed in front of them and started counting heads, and asked if all of them were going down. They saw the young leader pointing at Lin Feng. However, upon arriving at the location, they found that many people were camping there. The artists who were talking noticed them. They immediately greeted several friends. "You all came to learn from the master of the bamboo flute, right?" He said it was something his father mentioned. He doesn't practice properly every day. His skills are like storytelling. His awareness of the martial world is completely off. Then he was going to take Ling Feng and the others to see if it was true. Immediately, Lin Feng chimed in, saying that then a young hero also fell into the abyss. he was saved by a senior. And he received the senior's lifelong skills and unparalleled techniques. If he's lucky, he might even marry the senior's granddaughter. This made the introducing minor leader awkwardly chuckle foolishly. According to the legend, Wu Zuowei died on the spot. Its weight has fallen into the abyss. Upon hearing this, one can't help but laugh at such a cliché story. Next, is there a cold pond at the bottom of the abyss? Is Qi Zhong hiding out there or something? This is something we can all learn from. After enduring countless trials, Lin Feng is finally close to the Sword Alliance's Pearl Peak. Once he climbs over this sword-hanging mountain, he will see Sword City. It is said that this sword-hanging mountain was the dual site of the legendary sword hero Wu Zuowei and the Divine Finger, and is full of demonic powers. He is determined to become a hero. No matter how the world helps him, deceives him, insults him, laughs at him, loves him, sees him as evil, or cheats him, he has always adhered to his ideals. His fierce exterior and kind heart are his shining points. One Eastern Depot is already troubling enough. Now the Martial Arts Association is even more unsettling than the Eastern Depot. Li Feng watched this national animation and reformed himself. Chris Wu watched it and repented. Although the male lead looks fierce, if you make one wrong move in the unlocking process, it can never be opened again. This is a unique mechanism of the Swallow Society, an organization under the Martial Arts Association. It's quite valuable. If it weren't for actually triggering the Martial Arts Association's nerves, it probably wouldn't have come to this. It was Li Chunhua, the third-generation disciple of the Wanchur Institute. At that moment, the prince explained to Deng Yunfeng that he was fished out from the Shidu port. When we found him, he kept murmuring something about the leader and the Martial Arts Association. I thought maybe we could get some information out of him. And look at the glass lock on the table. Sure enough, the short-legged prince was nowhere to be seen. A moment later, the prince wiped his hands and said to Deng Yunfeng, "You can only take small steps in the residence from now on." Then he arrived at a prison cell. There, he saw a white-haired man lying inside. He continued, saying he would take him to meet someone. Moments later, Deng Yunfeng arrived at a prison cell. The jailer saw him and couldn't help but ask, "Master Deng, what are you doing here alone?" Deng Yunfeng immediately turned to look behind him. He would surely be the people's benefactor. The prince is smiling on the outside, but cursing inside. "Damn it, why did you stand up again?" Then he said, "Let's leave this to fate." From the trace of inner power displayed by that strong man, he is undoubtedly a formidable master of demonic arts. However, in my judgment, he is a person of pure goodness. He does not retaliate when insulted. After saying this, he suddenly stood up and said that if this person were to serve the prince. On his way back, he encountered people from southern Shaolin. They were in plain clothes, hurrying to join the Sword Alliance. But that's not the main point. The key point is that they saved 2 people from Shaolin. Although we haven't seen the 2 act directly, no need to blame yourself. But Prince Chang looked up, as if life had lost all meaning, and said, "Can you not suddenly stand up like that? I might hurt my neck." Deng Yunfeng immediately sat back down obediently. Then he mentioned there was one more thing to say. They want an army. I never expected that, back when I sought to regulate the martial world, I would create such a monster. Seeing this, Deng Yunfeng immediately stood up. He expressed that the prince always works for the people. Moreover, Kong Tong and Xuanjin have allied with the demonic sects to join the Martial Arts Association. Meanwhile, those demonic sects and small gangs that refuse to submit have been directly crushed at their gates. No survivors. At this moment, after hearing the report, Prince Chang's face darkened. Did they directly kill the disobedient cult members? The Martial Arts Association isn't looking for experts, but secretly, they are bribing members of various sects. They attempt to control the entire martial arts world. In doing so, they amass great wealth. Now, the Songshan, Ame, Huashan, and Xiaoyao sects are all finished. Wudong and Tangmen are trapped at the mountain gate with no way to seek help. Indeed, the people from the Martial Arts Association are doing evil behind the prince's back. On the surface, the Martial Arts Association is under the prince's grace, helping the prince regulate the martial world. To ensure that the conflicts in the martial world don't cause disruption, the common people live in peace. Hearing this, Prince Chang hysterically shouted, "I'm already 50 years old, still treating me like a kid, trying to fool me." But in the end, I couldn't escape the truth smells sweet rule. Pinky swear. Not allowed to change for 100 years. Then Deng Yunfeng reported the findings of the trip. "Besides, Your Highness, you're a sensible prince now. Could you promise me not to lose your composure over something so childish?" As he finished, he extended his left pinky. "Let's pinky swear." Even after running down 10 streets, he still couldn't catch up. At this moment, Deng Yunfeng said he had simply walked over. The Prince of Chang was immediately enraged and demanded, "Say that again if you dare. I'll try with my short legs." Deng Yunfeng, who was being grabbed by the collar, helplessly said, "I didn't say that." He was originally going to the city gate to set off fireworks to welcome the returning Deng Yunfeng. But while figuring out how to use them, he missed Deng Yunfeng by just a moment. He then realized that Deng had already entered the city. So he started chasing after him. But alas, his legs were too short. He was a renowned hero of the martial world. Yet here he was, kneeling before this dwarf to speak, completely submissive to him. And that dwarf was none other than King Chang, one of the 10 princes of the Ming dynasty. But fine, let's go with the apprenticeship. Seeing this scene, Dang helplessly sighed. Has the proportion of fools in the team risen to 66%? Then he tried hard to recall. It felt like he was supposed to deal with someone. At the same time, Dang Yunfeng arrived at the now deserted temple, full of confusion. This made Lin Feng burst into a huge smile. He pulled him to say it again. The young leader was completely confused. He casually said, "I love you." Lin Feng said that's not the line. His greatest wish in this life is to dominate the demonic path. But Lin Feng, with a distressed look, said they had no future. His dream is to become a hero. In the struggle, the young sect leader accidentally mentioned hero. Just accept me. He actually forgot to conceal his demonic powers. However, in the next second, the young sect leader suddenly rushed in front of Lin Feng with stars in his eyes, begging him to take him as a disciple. "Hurry up, we will definitely arrive tomorrow." At this moment, the young leader had a blank expression. His strongest thought right now was the domineering demon lord. Seeing his expression, Lin Feng was also frozen in place. He momentarily relaxed. "It looks like there are horses to buy. I originally wanted to buy some food and clothes to bring back, but then I remembered the money was with the sweeping monk." At this moment, his aura dissipated. He revealed a silly and cute figure. "You all worked hard." Diving down, it quickly crashed to the ground. He was shocked at the sight. Cold sweat dripped down. Then he heard Lin Feng's voice say, "There's a small town 50 miles ahead." He was immediately stunned. He even had the audacity. Wasn't that enough? At this moment, he suddenly looked up at the sky, only to see a figure surrounded by a terrifying red aura. In the forest, he wants to be a hero. He's counting on the Martial Arts Association as a stepping stone. Hearing that Lin Feng wanted to be the young master of a hero alliance, he was instantly dumbfounded. Then he remarked that, with Lin Feng's material conditions, it would be difficult. But he heard that there was a second obstacle. But now it seems they're not. Then Ying Dan also explained. They accidentally learned that the Martial Arts Association had some issues. While investigating, they got targeted by the Martial Arts Association. But this is also good. Ying Dan and the young alliance leader shouted in unison, "It's the Martial Arts Association again." They then looked at each other in dismay. The young alliance leader first explained that the reason they were trapped here was because they were tricked by the Martial Arts Association to attend some kind of Jianghu Unity Gala. "I originally thought the Jinhui and the Martial Arts Association were in cahoots. The real Jinhui are officers ranked Baihu and above. They are just a group of cannon fodder under the public hand." Then, feeling down, that's why when they encountered the Martial Arts Association, Shixiang would die. After hearing Xiaokui's words, "When the Real enforcers come tomorrow, they won't be able to escape." After saying this, he even asked Xiaokui to comment on whether he was right. Xiaokui agreed, saying, "You're right. Those people were just like his senior brother. They temporarily joined the Jinhui to make a living." He said the first business of the year must be delivered. After a short rest, they hurried through the night. The young leader drowsily asked, "Is it really necessary to travel overnight?" Ding Dan laughed and explained that the Jinhui were the imperial government's violent organization. The ones they just knocked out were at most construction workers for Lin. Then angrily said, "Who doesn't have a wife?" He picked up a pen and wrote a letter home, then tied the note to the homing pigeon's leg. Today, Vince was particularly full of energy. He immediately released the pigeon. This made him chuckle as well. "Look at you, being silly all day. Turns out you're quite clever. Come over and take a hit." Meanwhile, the middle-aged man next to him, who was full from eating dog food, gave a soft snort. She raised her little fists and punched him. "What do you mean? Are you saying I'm not normal?" But I heard him reply with a smile. He didn't say anything at all. He was just overthinking it. Watching this scene, someone should have complained to Lin Feng. Who's to blame for the fact that they hadn't encountered a single normal person along the way? At this moment, Lin Feng wasn't being foolish. He directly said, "That mostly depends on you." This made Ying Dan furious. This girl was slapped with an arrow in the face, but she didn't blame the person. She was even happy to make friends with her. At this moment, the two regretted not meeting sooner. With a passionate shout, they yelled together, "Down with the righteous path of martial arts." Then her eyes gleamed as she said, "It would be great if all the so-called righteous paths of this world were doomed." The young lord got excited as well. He didn't expect to meet a kindred spirit. The two instantly bonded like Boyet and Ziki. They quickly formed a deep friendship, but Xiao Kuei rushed in front of the young leader, grabbing his hand and agreeing with him. "What righteous heroes? They're all just a bunch of pigs. They harmed my senior brother." This left Lin Feng, a fan of the so-called righteous sects, at a loss. Even Ying Dan thought this guy was no simple character. Then he glanced at Xiao Kuei beside him. After all, who in their right mind would hit a girl's face with a peachwood sword? as expected of a master from the demonic cult, generous and merciful, with extraordinary bearing, wise and courageous. Then he cursed, saying they're 100 times better than the righteous sect dogs in the Sword Alliance. I've told you so many times, there are no ghosts in this world. After a while, a few people returned to the ruined temple. After listening to Lin Feng explain the whole story, the young alliance master said he infiltrated the Jinui to rescue us. The attacker, feeling the real sensation in his hand, was puzzled it wasn't a ghost. At that moment, someone ran over, shouting, "Young alliance master, you've been waving the peach wood sword around again." And now, right in front of him, there were two powerful figures. However, as he watched the two of them fooling around, his desire to seek their help wavered instantly. But for the sake of revenge, he firmed his resolve and was about to speak, when suddenly, someone who had appeared behind him struck his face with a sword. The reason Xiao Kuei was so frantic was due to overwhelming joy, like Fan Jin passing the imperial exam, all because he joined the Jinui to avenge his senior brother. But then he realized that joining the Jinui wasn't enough for Jin. They looked at the impact. Mentally unstable Xiao Kuei, Ing Dan immediately turned and ran. He wasn't good at dealing with this kind of situation. The two blamed each other while watching the crazed Xiao Kuei. I still find it hard to believe. At this moment, a sobbing sound came from behind. The two quickly turned to look. They found it was the young girl from the Jinui, Xiao Kuei. The crying also alerted the people in the dilapidated temple, then quickly changed the topic, pointing to the people on the ground, saying, "You managed to take them all down in this short time? Still, don't let anyone below find out." Although I saw it with my own eyes, Lin Feng was stunned. He couldn't even remember such a simple command. Watching Lin Feng recite it fluently, Ing Dan threw a punch at him. "Damn it, why didn't you say so earlier?" Ing Dan replied that with such a long battle name, who could remember it? If he couldn't answer, it would definitely expose him. Perhaps they were testing him on purpose. It was better to act first than to wait. However, upon hearing this, moments later, looking at the people lying on the ground, Lin Feng was still a bit flustered. Although this is his masterpiece, it was Ing Dan who acted first. I couldn't help but ask him why he suddenly made a move. Drip, drip. Heaven, earth, and man wiped out in one go. Final encirclement battle. Although those who gave the order received their due punishment, they were probably so angry that they cursed like a Martian storm. 9 heavens fly through the galaxy, 10,000 advances. For shields obscure the front, Bai Kuan leads the way. Xia Chao, the gambler, is a shocking beggar. The 8 wastelands conceal the 3 generations, the Milu River ditch. 9-fold Huluan Hu 004. Heaven, earth, and humanity are all gathered together. Final siege operation. Lin Feng and the others expressed their damn support. Did the author just roll over the keyboard to type this out? Have you ever heard such a crazy battle order? For barriers conceal the front wall, Kuan stands as the leader. Thank you, Xiao Dan, for the startling guidance. The 8 wildernesses conceal the 3 generations and the 6 rivers. 9 layers of Fox Spirit 004. Drip, drip. So professional. A subordinate came to report. My lord, isn't this already agreed upon? Please, my lord, issue the command to execute. The 9 heavens flying silver in 10,000 realms transformation created by the two of you. Move forward immediately. Surround them completely. Watching their swift movements, Lin Feng and the other were dumbfounded, as expected of the Jinui. At this moment, Xiao Kuei reported back that everyone was ready. They can set off now. In the snowy ground, a team of Jinui moved forward quickly. They soon arrived at a dilapidated temple. I take that back. Then she said, no need to think so much for now. Since it's related to the Wulin Association, we will eventually come into contact with it. Then, with sharp eyes, he said that the most important thing now is to catch Deng Yunfeng and give him a beating. That's simple anymore. Ing Dan glanced at Lin Feng. Someone who can learn so many ultimate techniques surely isn't dumb. But seeing his silly grin instantly appear, he continued, I've heard the name of King Chang since I was a child. Over these years, his love for the people should not be a lie. King Chang has always maintained a good relationship with the Martial Arts Association. In the past, I only thought this was King Chang showing goodwill towards the martial world, but now it doesn't seem. However, at this moment, Ing Dan asked him for his opinion on Deng Yunfeng. Lin Feng said seriously that his methods are ruthless, but you can tell he's not a bad person. Then he looked at Ing Dan and said, but what you really want to ask is my opinion on the rampant chaos behind him, right? Before Ing Dan could respond. Now we have the confidence to go to Jianmeng together. Otherwise, the two of us are penniless and don't know the way. By the time we reach Jianmen, the dynasty might have already changed. Lin Feng can only tell you he's smart. You're right about everything. He exclaimed, there's an alliance leader among the Manhua people. It should show that you're truly a fool. Why would the leader of the alliance carry an alliance leader token? But whoever has this can't be a nobody. We saved him. Then he said it was something he picked up while chasing the Manhua people from Jianghu. Lin Feng picked it up and looked at it. The front had the character sword. The back had the words leader of the alliance. He was instantly struck like thunder. You should reassure him. Do you think I've just been idle all day? I've been running around the whole city of Jincheng. I've blown the lid off everything the Jinhui knows. Then I took out a round copper plate. Only to realize in the city they're the uniform of a Jinhui captain. So he has to pretend to be a captain sent to supervise the capture of martial artists. But Lin Feng didn't expect that Ing Dan had really drafted a capture plan. Afterwards, he couldn't help but ask, what are you playing at? Do we really have to help the Jinhui persecute our fellow martial artists? In the very end. I'm curious how they live. This boy, with an IQ of only 50 but skilled in 300 types of magic. As soon as he entered the martial world, he caused a series of absurd incidents. Now, he casually grabs 2 pieces of clothing from the roadside. The Genie Wei, who couldn't think straight, were stunned for a moment. Then they all clapped and cheered. Lin Feng, however, was sweating coldly, his eyes glistening with tears. Did we surrender to the enemy? The only direction left is the ruined temple 10 li away. So notify the brothers to grab their weapons and raid the broken temple tonight. At this moment, Ing Dan was full of confidence, stating that he would catch all those scoundrels in one net. I heard you know Deng Yunfeng's whereabouts. That makes things easier. The people from this morning are just small ants. The ones you've been chasing are the real big tigers. Connect Deng Yunfeng's movements from 3 days ago and today. But we have to capture that Jianghu person. Please, Your Excellency, give instructions on the action plan. Lin Feng looks confused. I have to catch myself. At this moment, Ing Dan finally appears. A person from the Jianghu. But this morning, young Master Yunfeng suddenly appeared and saved Bei Lan from a person from the Jianghu. He also ruthlessly killed 4 brothers. The Eastern Depot says we can't move against young Master Yunfeng. Isn't this putting him in a difficult position, given his IQ is only 50? At this moment, a Genie Wei came in to report. I believe you already know, my lord. The officials have been ordered to pursue the chaos in the capital. He got through before being exposed. But where did that guy Ing Dan run off to? At night, Lin Feng sat in the office, sweating profusely. He actually had to write a 300-word plan for capturing criminals. He took his leave with his men. While leaving, he said it went well. He managed to get through before the new boss made things difficult. Let's go have a drink to celebrate. Lin Feng also thought it went well. Although Lord Baihu is busy with many tasks here, and there are many orders to follow. You've had a long and tiring journey. Please, my lord, sit down and rest early. Seeing Lin Feng in the rain, we shall punish ourselves with 10 hard slaps. Seeing this, Lin Feng was drenched in cold sweat. Work life is really tough. The leader who had just finished performing, respectfully said, they offered their heartfelt support. The Lord shows compassion to the grassroots. Such flattery is not encouraged. I, your subordinate, am ignorant. I even thought of preparing some trivial things to please you, my lord. We could have prepared properly. Come, let's sing a song for the commander. Upon seeing this, Lin Feng hurriedly gestured that it wasn't necessary. Everyone was deeply moved. Whose clothes did they borrow? Then they arrived at the Jinhui base. At this moment, Lin Feng was extremely nervous. The leader said, we've long heard that the commander was coming to supervise our work. Why didn't you say something when you arrived? After borrowing the coats, the two walked around Jiancheng. The people around them stepped aside. Even a young female Jinhui greeted them respectfully, addressing them as Master Baihu. This left Lin Feng utterly confused. But the sweeping monk took Lin Feng and the others' horses. So the valuables on the horses were naturally lost as well. Ding Dan immediately said, as expected, this old man is truly wicked. Looking at Jiancheng in the distance, shivering from the cold, he suggested they find some kind-hearted people to borrow a couple of coats. Of course, it's the penniless male and female protagonists. Because from Master Deng, we learned that Jiancheng has become the stronghold of the Jinhui. And the sweeping monk is also heading north to find food and soldiers. Thus, the two groups parted ways. That way, next time I see you, I can cut you down. Get the hedge trimmer. These two men are taking a snowflower bath, while rubbing against each other and howling like wolves. What could make them so refined? We don't need you worthless trash. Then it means that since you're not going to rely on the eunuchs, there's no reason to kill you. Just get lost, and then he turns to leave. But I still hope you go rely on the eunuchs. Lin Feng and the others want to side with Jin Mang. Deng Yunfeng couldn't help but mock. I suggest you might as well go hug the old eunuch's thigh. Even a dog has to choose its master, right? Jin Mang is such a softie, I alone can take them all down. As for the Wang of Chang, some tough ones want to challenge the old eunuch. For example, that Jian Mang was driven to the south to hide. Jian Chang has also become a den for the Jinhui. Lin Feng and the others were taken aback. Jian Chang is not here. At this moment, Deng Yunfeng retracted his short sword. It's not just you monks who cling to the eunuchs for support. There are plenty of Taoists and beggars too. And there's also the Wulin Association. That stirs up trouble every day. He's indeed pretty tough. It's a shame that a proper Buddhist monk became a lackey, but they do look quite good in the Jinui uniforms. Not bad at all. Hearing this, the sweeping monk said, well, then we should give it a try too. How could they possibly join treacherous officials? There must be some misunderstanding. Deng Yunfeng sheathed his long sword, no misunderstanding. Sure, Sangbing is now up north fighting life and death for that dead eunuch. I've crossed paths with him a few times. Could it be true, as the rumors say? Are the monk soldiers joining the eunuchs? The sweeping monk was taken aback. He said this joke shouldn't be taken lightly. Our Shaolin monk soldiers are known for their loyalty and bravery. At this moment, the sweeping monk finally arrived at their side. He shouted, dear benefactors, everyone, calm down. Seeing the sweeping monk, Deng Yunfeng was a bit puzzled. I couldn't help but ask him why Shaolin had to sneak into the capital. But Lin Feng instantly grabbed the blade with his bare hands. Then, with a serious expression, he said, don't go too far. However, this also revealed the flowers and herbs tied to his hand. Deng Yunfeng chuckled softly, interesting. You keep your hands behind your back just to hide this? My mother even said you're a hero. I think you're more like a big fool. He wanted to scold him again, but Lin Feng pulled him back and urged him to calm down. However, the ill-tempered Deng Yunfeng had already drawn his sword. In an instant, he lunged at Ying Dan. I would have killed you all already. At this moment, Ying Dan ran to Lin Feng's side. She immediately rushed toward Deng Yunfeng, pointing at him, you brat. Can you even talk? Do you really think you saved us? Say that again if you dare. Deng Yunfeng sheathed his sword. Fine, I'll say it again. You're all scum of the martial world. He continued disdainfully, if it weren't for Prince Chang's love for all under heaven, and his insistence on treating you martial folk kindly, Shaolin's reputation still carries some weight. But by then, Ying Dan had already run far away. Only 2 words echoed back, nonsense. At the same time, Lin Feng responded, I don't understand what you're saying. The sweeping monk could only continue to reassure her, little benefactor, please don't be impulsive. This Yunfeng benefactor truly is a hero. He then removed his hood and explained that the rumors were true. His biological parents were killed unjustly due to conflicts in the martial world. Thus, he views everyone in the martial world as a malignant tumor disrupting peace. He then suggested, let me go communicate with Deng Yunfeng. Hearing this, Lin Feng was taken aback. Is this really the hero everyone admires? But Ying Dan was not so good-tempered. Furious, she ran towards Deng Yunfeng. She even exploded in anger at the sweeping monk's calming advice, what the hell is this so-called hero? But felt that he shouldn't wipe them all out. After all, lives are at stake. However, Deng Yunfeng arrogantly said, what does it matter? I'm just killing a few dogs on my way. Can your little insect from the martial world really give orders? A handsome appearance but foul-mouthed person can be a hero? Those who look fierce but are kind-hearted are often mistaken for the leaders of evil cults. What kind of world is this? Regarding Deng Yunfeng's help, Lin Feng expressed his gratitude. Ding Dan was also shocked. It's Deng Yunfeng. The cleaning monk joined his hands together, expressing regret. Lin Feng hid the flower and grass machine behind him, and asked the newcomer, are you the great hero Deng Yunfeng? The newcomer was not ready to let them go just yet. He swung his hand with a short sword. In an instant, he pierced the slowest runner. Seeing Lin Feng's serious expression, do you see his words? A lucky one timely ducked down and escaped a disaster. But the newcomer charged at him with the returning long sword. The crouching Imperial Guard exclaimed, young master, don't! However, the longsword still came down. The other Imperial Guards quickly retreated upon seeing this. But it missed everyone. Just as it was about to fly past them, he hooked his fingers onto a thread extending from the book. The old sword spun into action. Instantly, 2 men were killed on the spot. This had never happened before, but the person swept right past him. With a swift sword strike, he cut through the frontmost Jinui. The side split a man in 2. Then he hurled his sword at the remaining group. The bamboo hat flew into the sky. But it wasn't Lin Feng who made the move. A figure appeared beside him. He was startled. He hadn't noticed the person's approach at all. The biggest one. Take your hand out from behind. Hearing this, Lin Feng flicked his long sword out of the scabbard. He reached out, about to lift his hat. With a whoosh. At that moment, Lin Feng was already reaching for the long sword on his back. This also made the Jinui notice something strange. They notified the others to prepare. Then they pulled back. Someone shouted to Lin Feng. There were only a few wigs left. If this keeps up, they'll be found out sooner or later. Better strike first. The sweeping monk was also undecided. After all, who knew how many Jinui were hidden beneath the snow? What they saw was just a pretty boy. Those following behind all took off their hats, indicating that the underworld is rising now. They were fleeing to Kyoto. On the carriage, Ying Dan couldn't help but ask the sweeping monk what to do. Just then, the Genie Way blocked the road ahead. Where did you come from and where are you going? Why is your hat pulled so low? Immediately, they lifted the hat of the person in front. The fiery demonic technique after the flash of light would only make you burn. Ingdan snorted disdainfully, so what if your internal energy is strong? Then he noticed the sweeping monk, wearing a hood, had been watching him all along. He couldn't help but speak up, Master. Your head is tilted. Aren't you going to take off a layer to thank me? But everyone silently turned away, ignoring his furious outburst as he picks a fight with Lin Feng. Why aren't you cold at all? Lin Feng smiled and said, not sure how long we've been walking. It's suddenly turned winter. Ingdan sneezed from the cold. Seeing that everyone was ignoring him, he angrily said, plain clothes. I remade all of them. Then I remembered those two masters at the Wooden Sky Dark Bureau and their incredible disguise techniques. Maybe it makes sense that it takes so long. But seeing the sweeping monk appear, I was instantly speechless. Damn, what's the point of wearing a hood as a disguise? Silently reciting the Qingxin mantra to hold back. You can't let yourself be defeated by Qinhui. In the evening, you should be bored dancing on the suitcase. Why are those monks taking so long? Isn't it just disguising themselves? He invited them to join in building the factory. After all, the medical skills and poison techniques of the Poison Immortal Valley, along with the unpredictable might of the Wind Spirit's magic, are powerful tools against the Martial Arts Association. But as soon as he finished speaking, he saw them playing around again. He suppressed his anger. But when he turned around and saw this, he instantly wanted to give up. Luckily, Lin Feng stopped his childish behavior. He asked what was said in time. The sweeping monk finally spoke up. Lin Feng, feeling hopeless, said the mood was completely ruined by you. Someone who can be childish with you might not love you, but just be as goofy as you are. The monk sweeping ahead wanted to invite them to join him. Ingdan tapped Lin Feng on the back and called his name. Seeing him jump in fright, he said in disbelief, are you stealing? You're scared like this. 100-year-old temple, huh? Then he trembled slightly and said, even if it's 1,000 years, so what? Now that everyone is gone, what's the point of guarding these dilapidated temples? At that moment, Alliance leader Zhuge Feng is willing to protect the prestigious sects that haven't yet joined the Martial Association. At the same time, he's also asking for help to resist the Martial Association. Lin Feng's face suddenly darkened. So, is the 100-year-old Shaolin temple just going to be abandoned like this? The sweeper monk was silent for a moment. He couldn't help but ask the master, are you leaving Shaolin? The sweeping monk replied, you are correct. Then he said, a few months ago, I received a secret letter from the Sword Alliance. Is now the new government over there in the county. I just didn't expect that even the renowned Qingye Association has become a lackey of the Martial Arts Association. At this moment, Lin Feng saw a monk moving luggage down the mountain. Lin Chong says his family hasn't been affected. The sweeper monk glanced at him. From your accent, you're from the county, right? In all things, if there is loss, there is gain. When the government shows weakness, the underworld thrives. The Qingye society you mentioned, the whales filled the land. It's both tragic and laughable. They say officials are like fierce tigers. Only when this evil tiger of goodness is gone, can we realize the terror of the howling wolves? All local expenses were cut off. Seeing the situation turn grim, these local officials took the money and fled. The government collapsed. Robbers and bandits ran rampant. At the same time, enemies from all sides rose up in rebellion. The eunuch Deng Xie of the Central Plains seized all military power of the court. The western regions, the southern border, the north, and the southern barbarians, plus the Woko pirates wreaking havoc in the southeast. The court had long been hollowed out. The sweeping monk stood at the mountain gate and thanked Lin Feng and the others again. He said that with the current influence of the Wulin Association, it's not something that one or two experts can cure. The current emperor ascended the throne at the age of 7. He suddenly fell ill at the age of 12 and couldn't get up. Is among the 10 monk soldiers of the court, and my little junior brother from Shaolin, the current annotation, has all been killed. To silence us, we have been trapped here for over 3 years. The next morning, upon hearing this, Lin Feng asked in confusion why they didn't leave the people from Dufashan behind to inquire about the Martial Arts Association. But the sweeping monk had already seen through the world. What else is there to ask? Shaolin knows too much already. The Arhat Diamond of Shaolin. What kind of person he is. Moreover, I suspect that the Martial Arts Association deliberately brought you here. The depths of the Martial Arts Association are even deeper than you imagine. They might be planning to let you take the blame for the destruction of Shaolin, then eliminate you. The two successfully tricked him and celebrated with a high five. Next, they explained their purpose to the sweeper monk. After understanding the whole story, the sweeper monk said, it seems I misunderstood you. Shaolin does not agree with the way the Poison Immortal saves people. But I know. It seems you were affected by the hidden influence of Buddha Mountain. Ingdan quickly added that it must have been a sudden onset of stillness, which caused them to faint unexpectedly. The sweeper monk couldn't remember no matter what. He could only sigh and admit that the guy from Dufashan had some skills. What just happened? Upon hearing this, both of them were stunned. Then, they thought quickly. Lin Feng panicked and said, Master. Moments later, the sweeping monk opened his eyes in confusion. Seeing Lin Feng in front of him, he couldn't help but quickly retreat. In panic, he asked, what happened? I fainted? When he gets angry, he can faint a high monk. Looking at the fainted cleaning monk, Dan suggested waking the master first, then adapt to the situation. Anyway, he can't defeat you. Next, we will see the opening scene. As for whether he ran away or not, please watch the next episode. This man with a fierce look can scare a child into tears when he smiles. Immediately, his face twisted with rage. His aura exploded. Damn it! I wanted to say it from the start, but you just wouldn't listen. Now I know to ask, and kill two if they come in pairs. Then, with a serious expression, he glanced at Lin Feng. But you two haven't answered my question yet. What is it that you people of the demonic path seek in Shaolin? Hearing this, Lin Feng's face darkened and trembled slightly. This is Shaolin, not the Dali Temple. It's impossible to imprison them. And it's not like your evil ways, where you kill one if they come. The cleaning monk welcomes them into the temple. Seated, Lin Feng asks the cleaning monk why he let the people from the Buddha mountain go. They intend to destroy Shaolin. Isn't this letting the tiger return to the mountain? Then the sweeping monk said. Heartbroken, he turns and leaves. He doesn't want to hear the secrets between the monk and the nun. Feeling down, he tells Dan that he hates bald heads. After dealing with the matter at the Buddha mountain, I heard her say she wasn't interested. Then I saw him flash a sickly smile. He said there's only one thing he's interested in, and that's the sweeper monk. Lin Feng was instantly stunned. And what this demonic sect seeks? You can ask him yourself. Lin Feng was instantly overwhelmed with emotion. Finally, I get to speak. Just as I was about to explain to the nun. How did you learn to associate with such mysterious figures from the demonic sect? Lin Feng wanted to explain that he wasn't part of the demonic sect, but was interrupted by the sweeping monk. Enough of your nonsense. I am the sweeping monk of the 7th generation of Shaolin. Dealing with you is sufficient. The person, along with their spear, was sent flying. After using the spear to dissipate the force and come to a stop, the person's face was finally revealed. It turned out to be a bald nun. Knowing that Lin Feng was formidable, he mocked the sweeping monk, saying to Senior Brother Chen. Using the fixed long spear, he kicked toward Lin Feng's head, but it was blocked by Lin Feng's arm. Lin Feng, who blocked the attack, exerted force with his foot. With a push, the opponent was slammed backward. A loud bang echoed. Then he quickly gripped the long spear tightly. With a sudden swing to the left, the person sneered in disdain. Then, using the momentum, he leaped into the air to the top of the long spear. He then thrust the long spear forcefully into the ground. Frightened, he quickly ducked his head. The attacker didn't want to let him go. The spear thrust toward his waist, but he twisted his waist to dodge. In an instant, he clamped the long spear under his arm. Feeling a bit annoyed, he also swung his weapon. A loud clang echoed. His weapon blocked the attack between two other weapons. Just as he was about to ask who the attacker was, he saw a spear sweeping toward him. The two fell silent. As for why someone so mild-mannered got angry, that happened just a moment earlier. The sweeping monk had interrupted him multiple times, even waving his stick at him. Deng said helplessly, did we just wipe out Shaolin? And Lin Feng was also dumbfounded. Was his path as a hero coming to an end? Then Dan said, why not just join the martial arts association? He immediately thought that was a good idea. She couldn't help but ask what he was doing. He snapped out of it immediately. Oops, got too excited just now. I unleashed all my inner strength. Looking at the monk lying on the ground, this man, when angered, was like a vengeful spirit. He frightened even the formidable Shaolin monk to the point of foaming at the mouth. He fainted away. The girl behind him also felt like she had fallen into a freezing abyss. However, the sweeping monk soon reported to them. Lin Feng instantly drew his weapon. A loud clash echoed. 3 weapons collided together. The newcomer gave a soft shout, reacting quite quickly. The monk tested the world like a spinning ball. He wouldn't just accept someone's favor for nothing. Then he showed anger on his face. Startling Dan. Why is he angry? Nowadays, there is no clear line between good and evil. So it's not surprising that the demon sect would save Shaolin. Now, tell me, what is your goal? Lin Feng wanted to explain, but was interrupted again. No need to beat around the bush. They mistook you for the demon sect leader again. Lin Feng waved his hands, trying to explain, but the sweeper monk gave him no chance to speak. Although I am bound by the monastic rules of Buddhism, I am not some inflexible fool. I could predict their real moves afterward. At that moment, looking at their sweeping monk, I suddenly spoke, saying, I am very grateful to you both for saving Shaolin. But Shaolin has no dealings with the demonic sect. I wonder what you two are after. Hearing this, Dan poked Lin Feng's sad face with her finger. He is already the #1 in the world. Lin Feng humbly replied, there's nothing left. I just suddenly remembered what the master told me when he asked me to recite the Heart Sutra of Mount Fu. I encountered these people's problems when I was 12 years old. And once I realized they were practicing the techniques of MANHUA. This magic expert is so powerful. I wonder if they have any ill intentions towards Shaolin. Dan also stated that this guy's attacks are surprising no matter how many times you see them. Moreover, she told Lin Feng that she thinks there's no hope at their mercy. Easily taking down the two, Lin Feng couldn't help but look at his hands. He chuckled and said, the things Master taught are really useful. At this moment, the sweeping monk is covered in cold sweat. He had only learned the final move drawn in the Heart Sutra. Full of flaws. In an instant, he struck the back of his head. Training arms but not the waist. If a master dodges it. He then charged towards Lin Feng. Multiple figures appeared along the way. However, Lin Feng's excited eyes sparkled at the sight. He then slightly sidestepped to avoid his iron palm, copying the movements perfectly. The paddle of Foshan is a versatile tool. If you practice to death, you'll just be a target for workers to play with. The monk, who was fighting the sweeping monk nearby, witnessed the scene. Grinning widely, he said, a bunch of useless fools. Is everything coming at me? The mindset is set too early. The steps are shallow. After that, the next 3 moves were seen through. Then he easily turned and got behind the newcomer. In an instant, he stabbed him in the back with the scabbard. This 19-year-old youth has mastered 300 types of demonic arts. As long as anyone from the demonic path attacks him, he can see their weaknesses. He effortlessly dodged the large staff, and then happily clapped his hands, saying, they're from fallen Buddha mountain. The demon cult members saw this. Dan swiftly leaped and kicked towards his face. What are you standing around for? Go deal with them. And happily replied, yes. Dan pointed at the 2 people from fallen Buddha mountain. Well, to sum it up, these 2 people's identities are. Lin Feng hurriedly used his peanut-sized brain to think. He answered it was demonic cult martial arts. She said he got it right. Now, the second question. Do you know the martial arts these 2 people know? Lin Feng pondered for a moment. Go do what you need to do quickly. But Lin Feng defended himself, saying they were all monks. This is an internal conflict within the Buddhist sect. Dan said, with a brain like yours, just stop thinking. Then she asked what kind of martial arts he knew. But the master next to him was drenched in cold sweat. How did you get up here? Didn't you meet a monk with small eyes? You should have thrown the sword to him. I did. He's lying down below. Then he pulled Lin Feng up. Meanwhile, Lin Feng was leisurely reading his palm. I couldn't help but yell at him. What are you doing? Lin Feng replied in surprise, Dan. You're finally here. Then he chuckled, the master is reading my palm. Suddenly, the sound of intense fighting was heard. I thought to myself, whoever's fighting that fool must be quite formidable. However, as I got closer, I realized I was overthinking it. The ones fighting were Du Foshan and the Shaolin monk. At this moment, you should feel a gust of wind pass by. Then you see a monk holding his sword in bundle, indicating he's got quite a few valuables. But Dan just wished him 4 words, safe journey ahead. Then he continued onward. At that moment, Dan also breathlessly walked to the entrance of Shaolin Mountain. She shouted upwards, Dog Lingfeng. You scoundrel! I can't do martial arts. Turns out they came to rescue after hearing Shaolin was facing annihilation. A loud crack sounded. It was Lin Feng lifting the monk. He then pointed fiercely at everyone, declaring that they absolutely could not succeed today. But he realized that there were monks on both sides. He was instantly bewildered. He felt a bit embarrassed, saying he had drunk a bit too much. Feeling uneasy, this annoyed one of the Shaolin monks. The monk leapt up and swung his staff at him. But this was exactly what he wanted. Their companion, Xiang Qing, said nothing. Suddenly, the 9-neat Buddha of fallen Buddha mountain leapt up. He then swung the large staff in his hand toward the Shaolin monks. But it hit nothing, because he landed 3 meters away from his target. But Maribel thought Lin Feng looked so cute. Xiao Wushue left Shaolin, but as the martial world's towering pillar, Shaolin Temple, today faces the threat of annihilation. And the invaders are the rogue monks of Duofashan. Dan was filled with questions about this friend. Aren't you immune to all poisons? Lin Feng immediately felt a wave of relief. Watching Lin Feng grin foolishly, Dan thought he might really be an idiot. The main issue is that the ancient King Jade possesses an incredibly lethal poison. However, at this moment, Lin Feng has already tested its sharpness with his finger. Hearing this, he instantly froze in shock. He cut his finger. He's going to be poisoned to death. At this moment, Lin Feng was playing with the small drum king. He asked if this short sword was really powerful. Dan immediately got excited, of course. This is a pair of weapons made from the knight's ancient King Jade. Hardness is just one aspect. Malinlan replied that you couldn't use it anyway. The Guwang sword is just a decoration for you, isn't it? Besides, can Lin Feng call someone from outside? Dan looked at him, pleased. Annoyed, he said, look at your little achievements. Or maybe it doesn't belong to him. He heard Malinlan say it was given to him for self-defense. It's part of the set with Ingdan's Guwang sword. Dan was startled. Why did you give the little gu wand to an outsider? Lin Feng has no idea about him yet. He feels that the clothes on him fit well. He can't help but praise, sister. Your hands are really skillful. He then felt the short sword behind him, but obtaining it would be difficult, because the location of the other scroll is widely known. It's in the hands of the great hero who opposes the treacherous eunuch Deng. He is also Deng's adopted son, Huaeng. The one holding it in Deng Yunfeng's hand is a true hero. The mother and daughter were petrified instantly. You learned it just by flipping through it for fun? Ling Feng continued to act casual, saying yeah. Master even told me to find another scroll of the bird and beast picture. Upon hearing this, Malinlan said finding the bird and beast picture is easy. Then he added that his master said he picked it up by the roadside when he was young. He had no interest in it, and just gave it to me. I just flipped through it for fun. Then I learned what I should. Could it be that the collection of flowers and plants immediately caused an exclamation? All the myriad hidden weapons of flowers, birds, plants, and beasts are revealed. This is the collection of flowers and plants that went missing 40 years ago. Lin Feng confirmed, you are correct. Do you love studying? Lin Feng said it was a book on plants. Then she demonstrated something for them. Looking at the shattered table, Ma Linglan seemed deep in thought, instantly slicing it to pieces. Ying Dan and her daughter are left in a cold sweat. Just now, when Ma Linglan delivered clothes to Lin Feng, she saw that Lin Feng was always holding a book in her hand. Puzzled, she asked why she was holding a book. Whatever we can pry out later will be a bonus. This book actually has hidden weapons. As the pages turn, countless nearly invisible threads shoot out. In the blink of an eye, they pierce through the distant table. What an idiot who wouldn't even finish off a kill. Although they still took one of ours down. Hearing this, the man with black feet chimed in, saying it's just a small pawn. Getting that expert tricked into going to Shaolin to take the blame for us is worth it. Let's go. This kid must have heard quite a bit in the Poison Immortal Valley. The man with bare feet also appeared. I have to say, that group of bastards from the Martial Arts Association really has some skill. Just from the description of that knife by the side master, they figured out it was from the Wanxiang sect. Then they laughed, saying a little trick with the knife fooled him. The red-haired woman appeared behind him, sneering, isn't this the so-called Wanxiang sect? Your skills aren't bad, but you're a bit too stupid. Did you really think you could become the lord after just a few days? Then skillfully maneuvered the long sword with one hand, and pinned the weapon coming from the front to the ground as well. All of this happened in an instant. Just when he was feeling triumphant, he was ambushed. Suddenly sensed a weapon coming from behind, hurriedly ducked to dodge, then instantly drew the sword and swept the weapon coming from the front away, turned back to block the weapon attacking from behind again, immediately pinned it to the ground with the sword sheath. After bidding farewell to Lin Feng, he happily walked out of the Poison Immortal Valley, thinking that the Wanxian sect finally has a leader, and rebuilding is hopeful now. He was also thinking about how to assist Lin Feng. If you ask me, there's nothing wrong with liking men. Did the ancients not also enjoy the delicacies of sheep fat? Lin Feng and the others expressed that someone who likes gossip this much is definitely going to face consequences. Shaolin is next. In 1 hour, he was still talking about how Master Luo Feng's wife ran off with the second in command of Heifeng Cliff. People in the hall say, it's because the master actually likes men, seizing control of Zhou Xian, to profit from it. Now, aside from hunting down survivors, they're attacking the disobedient sects and clans. Sanshan is done for. Then I will disclose everything I know. Lufentang is working for the Martial Arts Association. Half of the sects in the martial world are the same. The goal is to infiltrate the entire country, taking advantage of the government's weakness. Little did I know, the leader saw him and sent all his men to meet the King of Hell. Then, he took Lin Feng, who was stunned with his hair turning white, into the Poison Immortal Valley. Afterward, I heard his explanation and learned that the magic knife in Lin Feng's hand was the proof of the sect master of the Infinite Sect. Whoever holds this knife is the sect master of the Infinite Sect. Next, I heard him say that if the sect master wants to investigate the Luo Feng Hall, his face was twisted in anger. He had cultivated 300 demonic arts. Any bystander who saw him would turn and run. Today, those who are oblivious to the situation will look for trouble with him. I thought I could finally teach him a lesson. Lin Feng was completely stunned. At this moment, the Lord clasped his fists and shouted at Lin Feng. Third-generation disciple of the Myriad Forms sect, Li Chunhua, greets Master Uncle Lin Feng. At this point, the question marks in his head were as numerous as stars in the universe. He completely froze. Then they saw the master place his hand on the hilt of his sword. The sharp blade flashed past everyone in an instant. Finally, he knelt on one knee and sheathed his sword. As the blade was completely returned to its scabbard, everyone from the Luo Feng Hall met their end. You noticed it all? Seeing the demonic blade in Lin Feng's hand, the master also showed a look of surprise. At that moment, Lin Feng had already thrown the black and white unicorn man away. Immediately after, everyone from the Luo Feng Hall gathered behind the master. Then his eyes gleamed with gold. The demonic blade swiftly unsheathed. The sound of two weapons clashing echoed. Lin Feng effortlessly deflected the attacks from both sides. The black and white horned men were stunned. Of course, it's to attack when he's unprepared. In an instant, he charged at Lin Feng. His sleeves stood upright. Blade shot out. Lin Feng scoffed disdainfully. And then what? Seeing the man not answering, his face showed anger. Speak up, my lord. The unicorn man behind him answered quickly. This guy isn't easy to deal with. Fortunately, experts care about saving face. Let's flatter him first to keep him calm. But before I could finish my sentence, Lin Feng suddenly interrupted. Someone is flying over. The lord murmured, can lightness skill really allow one to fly? It seems the person old Pang mentioned is indeed a true master. He immediately stood up. Everyone, stay alert. The news from the Martial Arts Association must have been missed. Moreover, it was an order from that lord. Our Luo Feng Hall cannot disobey it. At this moment, a figure appeared in the telescope. The man in the tree warned everyone. No wonder you think that way. The red-haired woman in the group turned away in disgust. Pervert, is this info reliable or not? Are we really just going to wait here like this? The man with the horn next to her chimed in. A man sitting under the tree looks up at him. If you want to go, go yourself. The last person who barged in is probably pushing up daisies now. The man in the tree burst out laughing. Tried more than 10 times. No response. Did that girl really escape back to the Poison Immortal Valley? Is that Poison Immortal Valley really so cursed? You really can't go in? At this moment, he was full of dominance. In an instant, he leaped forward, stirring up a fierce wind. Outside the Poison Immortal Valley, a sneaky person looks at the Lord of the Valley with binoculars. Let's hide for now. He immediately tore off the bandages on his body, ready to face them. It was time to test the results of his years of relentless training. Then, he activated his dark magic. A red aura surrounded his entire body. Luo Feng Hall has already caught up to our door, but without the poison-avoiding pill, they can't get in. Lin Feng, what do we do next? Lin Feng, pick up your weapon. You don't have martial skills. At this moment, Lin Feng cautiously scans the surroundings. He still remembers to ask the girl in his arms if she's hurt. Seeing how they're still so close together. You should roar, that's enough. Then, show a little confusion. Of course, you can also flirt with guys. This man who's an eyesore, in a moment of crisis, grabs the sword that shattered the camera woman's hand. It even made the girl think of names for their future children. He grabbed and crushed the sword aimed at him. Seeing this, Ma Linlan's eyes lit up with love. Manjuingtan's younger sister is called Manju. Finally, she understood why so many people like to be heroes. Turns out the ultimate goal is to woo girls. Lin Feng looks disappointed. So that's how it is, huh? At this moment, Lin Feng suddenly got up and dashed, instantly arriving in front of Ma Linlan. He still stubbornly believes it's the registration for the Martial Arts Association of Jianghu Road. Ma Linlan gives a definite answer, and tells him to throw away the plaque. Because the Martial Arts Association uses Jianghu Road to collect information on Jianghu people, and manipulates public opinion in Jianghu through this information. That the one responsible was an official sent by the Martial Arts Association. The entire Qingye Association has been replaced by a new group of people sent by the official. Upon hearing that the mastermind was the Martial Arts Association, Lin Feng felt like the sky was collapsing. Looking at the Jianghu Road plaque in his hand, he also hoped to save his daughter without risking lives. But Miss Lu was too severely injured. Her condition was beyond recovery. We had no choice but to use a secret technique to sever her fate. Before Master Lu passed away, he told me, even those who are moments away from death can be saved. The cost is that someone willingly sacrifices their life and enough labor fees. The labor fees. 2 months ago, the leader of the Qingye Society came alone with his dying daughter to seek treatment. I know that leader Lu of the Qingye Society is a brave man. Our Poison Immortal Valley has remained standing. Besides the valley being full of poisonous gas, it's also because we possess a secret technique that is never shared with outsiders. Severely injured, hard to recover. Long illness, no treatment. There was no choice but to agree. Right after, they told Ma Linglan about everything that happened after they met. At the same time, Ingdan also asked her how his mother knew there would be a problem with Qingye, and why she sent him to investigate. Ma Linglan stretched lazily and explained, it all started 2 months ago. You two are not allowed to talk privately. Ling Feng, confused, asked, why? But he heard it was to save their budding friendship in the martial world. Though full of questions, he saw the seriousness on his face. She was instantly furious. Sister? Call me aunt. Seeing Malangan looking pitiful, wanting to say something, he also yelled at him, if you have something to say, hold it in. After calming down, he said, let's get back to business. Ingdan was instantly stunned. She stared at them as they suddenly fell silent. Lin Feng couldn't figure out what was going on. He just felt the atmosphere was getting heavy. So he cautiously asked Marlinglan, sister, is this supposed to be and skilled in martial arts. Did you hear that? Dan shouted in embarrassment and anger. We're not that kind of relationship. But Melinda indicated that he didn't mean it like that. What he's trying to say is, you might be getting a new dad. While Malinlan was shocked, she waved at Dan. He gestured for him to come over. She tucked her hair behind her ear and whispered, look, the man's taste is quite good. He's wealthy. Is your master in the wholesale business of dark arts? These are treasures of the dark sect, after all. It should be acknowledged. Yeah, who exactly is your master? I heard Ling Feng say that his dad hired him from town for 500,000 taels. His tendons and bones are flexible, but his lower body is weak. So he learned Shiman Feng's 5-venom toad technique. His lower body became as solid as a rock. But it requires daily consumption of the 5 poisons. Hearing this, Malinlan couldn't help but interrupt. So he practiced the flowing severance long blade. His meridians are broad, but his dantian is dispersed and fearless. Then he must achieve Foshan like the Book of Changes. His dantian is solid as stone, but his tendons and bones are stiff. Next, the Serpent Fist of West Sea Serpent Island. Yet Lin Feng possesses profound internal energy. The ultimate truth of martial arts in the world is to practice what you lack. He cultivates the 9 heavens poison transformation technique, making him immune to all poisons, but it causes meridian contraction. He cannot circulate his internal energy. She asked Lin Feng how she learned her poison painting technique. Lin Feng repeated the beginning. But Marinlan still has doubts. Because ordinary people would experience meridian contraction after training. They would be unable to circulate their internal energy. Then she revealed a lustful smile. You two have developed your relationship to this point. For the indecent ones, I'll just give you a good beating. With an arrow against her neck, Marlins finally stopped clowning around. Have you confirmed this? Dan confirmed it. I even tasted his blood. It can't be wrong. Marlins confirmed the blood test. He's mastered the 9 heavens poison transformation technique. 9 heavens poison transformation technique. Only those who are neither male nor female, human nor ghost, can master it. This is the 9 heavens poison transformation technique, lost by our poison immortals. Ma Linglan exclaimed. But look at him. Ma Linglan looked at Lin Feng, who was grinning foolishly. She felt heartbroken and thought, has this child been poison silly? Rebuked, no. He's always been like this. Haven't you noticed something wrong? Seeing her mother's confused expression, she continued. The air around the poison immortal bones is filled with poison. Anyone who enters won't survive more than half an incense stick's time. The lily of the valley suddenly revived. Still calling her big sis. Little brother, how do you always speak so honestly? Dan ignored her playful mother. She got straight to the point. Mother, Lin Feng honestly said, Auntie, do you want to go touch up your makeup first? Hearing that her youthful heart was broken, Dan hurriedly shouted at Lin Feng to call her sister. Lin Feng quickly shouted out twice. She joked, thinking Lin Feng had become prettier. She couldn't help but praise him for being so good with words. Sister is getting old. She just looks like she's 18 or 19. But what Lin Feng said next shattered her youthful heart. Dan introduced, this is my mother, the Valley Master of Poison Immortal Valley, Ma Linglan. Ma Linglan teased Lin Feng, little brother, doesn't your sister look nothing like someone with children? Lin Feng agreed, that's right. Dan's mother became interested in Lin Feng, who suddenly appeared in the Valley of Poison Immortals. She was about to take him for research, but was caught by Dan. After some commotion, the three sat down. Upon hearing this, Dan's mother suddenly understood. Why isn't she afraid of the poisonous fumes surrounding the Valley of Poison Immortals? The 9 heavens poison transformation technique is an ancient martial art lost to the Valley of Poison Immortals. Once mastered, it grants immunity to all poisons. It turns out, just now, the whole town ate for over half a month and still didn't finish it. The kids from the neighboring village were envious to the point of madness. There were roasted beef tendons, steamed beef shanks, braised brisket, spicy tripe, smoked beef tongue, and boiled beef. Dan and her mother, drooling, noted that they had gone off topic. Lin Feng realized this and continued, saying that afterward, he mastered the 9 heavens venom transformation technique, which could only be practiced by neither man nor ghost. But his master was worried that the Yin energy would affect his development. So, he also had him practice the Sun Sha, but he still worried that the Sha energy was too strong and could weaken him. He also taught him the secret Vajrayana Ghost Gate Arhat Golden Body technique. For this, his father specifically sacrificed 99 white oxen from the western regions. Neither male nor female refers to children before the age of 9. And neither human nor ghost means one carries the essence of a corpse within their body. So, he practiced the 12 degrees of heavenly minor Yin Sha from a young age. This way, the Yin energy within him remains continuous. This counts as half human, half ghost. I still have a lot of questions for you. Lin Feng's mind was completely blank at that moment. Whatever you say goes. A technique that can only be mastered by someone who is neither male nor female, neither human nor ghost. This man actually mastered it. It was the first time Dan's mother had met such an interesting person. She reached out and hooked her arm around his shoulder. Your breath smells fragrant, that's good. Let me teach you then. Let's go somewhere else and talk slowly. He couldn't help but exclaim, this is amazing. He was clearly a person, but his aura was completely different. He really wanted him to teach him his styling skills. He remarked that his face could easily attract attention outside. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him, he said, you just changed clothes. But the difference is too big. I just want to say, he's so blind he can't even tell ground from sky. Ding Dan, seeing the man who suddenly appeared, was also full of confusion. Then Lin Feng looked him up and down. Lin Feng, alone and surveying the room, was astonished as if he had never seen the world before. At that moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Lin Feng was puzzled, so fast? But the next second, he was stunned. His face turned slightly red. Dan said that including his mom, there are only 2 people. Lin Feng looked bewildered. Are you joking? Next is the familiar scene of tadpoles looking for their mom. Dan, who searched all over Poison Immortal Valley without finding his mother, said he was going to take a shower. He asked Lin Feng to sit here for a while. Then she pointed ahead and said, we're here. Looking at the Poison Immortal Valley before him, Lin Feng felt that this entrance might be a bit too hasty. Getting closer, I couldn't help but exclaim how big it is. It must be very crowded with people, right? Lin Feng looked completely confused. Wouldn't it be better for him to go home and enjoy life? Ding Dan didn't expect him to understand. As long as he remembers that in the martial world, his mind is more important than martial skills. All your weaknesses. And you indeed weren't poisoned at that time. The effect of the Xiaoyao Bodhi powder is to strengthen the circulation of blood and qi. Drawing on inner strength. No matter how strong your inner strength is, it will be drained. If you want to protect me, you must use the most agile arms to block. All he has to do is pull gently, and all the flying blades will change their trajectory. At this moment, your technique has exposed. There are many more non-reflective blades. Each one is connected to him with a very fine thread. They're all attached to the headband in his hand. Moreover, his killing intent is directed at me. You naturally can't perceive it. Lin Feng, who narrowly escaped death, was on his way to Poison Immortal Valley with Dan. He couldn't help but ask how he lost to the steward. Dan sighed and said, we're still too young. We got played by an old hand. The flying blades you see are just a decoy. He aims to uphold justice. But unfortunately, he's just too unattractive. Even those he saved heroically. Only thought, turns out there are good people in the demon sect too. After the fierce battle with the steward, please also convey my regards to the lady hero. The 2 thanked the hero Lin Feng. Hearing about the hero, Lin Feng immediately stood up, having a wealth of treasures. Yet he does not seek pleasure. He is solely focused on martial arts. We'll meet again someday. The undercover agent has an impressive skill in disguise. Then they saw young Master Lu take out a gold coin. This represents the Lu family's token. If there's ever a need in the future, just let me know. The wanted notices in the city have all been cleared by them. This allows Dan and the others to take the opportunity to leave quickly. Dan reassured not to worry. Then, clasping his hands together, he said, Brother Lu. They also advised and Shan to leave as soon as possible. Then they took out the arrest warrant issued by the Qingye Society. They stated that the incident of Luo Fengtang robbing the escort has all been pinned on the 4 of us. With the reputation of the Qingye Society, we definitely won't be able to clear our names. Then, looking at Lin Feng, who was lying peacefully on the bed, he said, his internal energy is exhausted. He's not awake yet. Sit down and talk. But I heard the people from the escort agency say they won't do it. They are about to leave soon. We're here to bid you farewell. But Dan drew his sword, demanding, who are you? After hearing the explanation, he realized they were the people from the security escort agency from last night. Looking at their disguised faces, Dan said, I can no longer remember what you originally looked like. But the content on the wanted poster wasn't about capturing Lin Feng and his group. It turns out the young master from the nearby security escort service had torn down their wanted posters. After that, they returned to the inn, pushed open Lin Feng's door and said, benefactor, inside a city. The crowd looked at the notice and started talking. How shameless. To do such a thing. Just thinking about it gives me chills. I will ponder how to induce the fire-eyed demon of the escort bureau to embezzle the escort fog. 4 people will be enraged to death. Life or death is irrelevant. Post the wanted notices throughout the entire Southwest. The next morning, I just said they couldn't escape. And you all went and messed it up for me, huh? What are you still standing there for? Send me to chase after the sword. After my subordinates respond, watching their retreating figures, Pang Zun's face was filled with anger. Did the slap in the face come so suddenly? Coming to his senses, he shouted angrily at his subordinates, a bunch of useless fools. You can't even keep an eye on a few tied-up bodyguards? Now you can't even escape. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard. Then the young master of the Mutian escort came rushing in with his men. 2 benefactors, quick, get on the horse. 1 for each of you, and let's ride out. He couldn't hold on any longer. Everyone was shocked. Lin Feng, you can't fall. If you fall, we're all done for. Seeing this scene, Pang Xuanju looked very pleased with himself. But before the words were finished, they were interrupted by Lin Feng's painful scream. Turning around, they saw 4 blades had already sliced through Lin Feng's body. Blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, Lin Feng's face was ashen. The 4 strings pulling the beheading blades suddenly tightened. But it also let Dan see. He couldn't help but laugh. Coward. I know all your secrets. Now we just need Lin Feng to. It's the carefree Bodhi powder. The Dark Sutra of the Hall Lord. He actually found it out. Then, with a sinister expression, he tugged at the beheading hoop. Take my secret to see the King of Hell, then. Even the toughest man has a soft side. To protect the girl from harm, he was willing to shield her with his body. However, the girl poked his wound with her finger. She even tasted it with her mouth. Fang sighed. After that, he tasted it. Lin Feng speechlessly questioned the heavens. Damn it, couldn't you just poke my arm? Then Ing Dan said it was the carefree Bodhi powder. But Ing Dan said that his master didn't deceive him. The target of Pang Xun master is not him. So he can't sense the killing intent. He should just hold on. Then Ing Dan poked his finger into the wound on Lin. The execution blade instantly appeared in front of Ing Dan. As expected, it was blocked by Lin Feng's body again. The pained Lin Feng angrily asked why he couldn't sense any killing intent. Then, with tears flowing, he said that the master clearly said if you sense the killing intent, you can dodge all flying weapons. Could the master be a liar? Could it be that the blade is poisoned? But she heard Lin Feng say he was immune to all poisons. But Tang Xuanju didn't give them time to discuss. Can't stop the bleeding because you can't figure it out, huh? Then he pulled the arm holding the execution hoop back, sending it straight to hell. The harder he works to heal, the faster the blood flows. And his inner strength is also leaking uncontrollably. He is about to exhaust himself. Ing Dan looked at his wound. It swiped again beside him. Then he said, but with just one of me. That's more than enough. At this moment, Lin Feng expressed to Ing Dan. He is not feeling well, but could only use his arm to block the guillotine again. Seeing this scene, Master Pang was full of himself. How could I possibly be a match for this monster? He then pulled the executioner's band. The executioner's blade instantly sliced across Lin Feng's arm. Was just casual, did you? Kid, the martial world isn't a place where victory is decided solely by strength. But Lin Feng couldn't care less. He made a sharp turn and sprinted toward Ing Dan. He arrived just in time. He saw that the decapitating blade on the guillotine was already gone. Lin Feng was taken aback. He turned his head to look back. Sure enough, the guillotine appeared behind Ing Dan. At this moment, Lord Pang mocked Lin Feng, saying, you didn't think my earlier attack. Although Pang Xun was shocked by Lin Feng's speed. This was also what he wanted. In his eyes, Lin Feng was just a powerful rookie. He then raised the decapitating weapon in his hand and lunged at Lin Feng, indicating that he no longer cared about Ing Dan's life or death. Lin Feng immediately felt energized and clenched his fists. So it turns out I'm this strong. Suddenly, he didn't find the Pang family so frightening anymore. He then made a sprinting motion. This hero is on the move. He even invited him to join Luo Feng Hall. Seeing this, one should think. Pang Xunzhan patted Lin Feng on the shoulder. He indicated that he was the strongest one. In front of Pang Xunzhan, Lin Feng felt like a child. What kind of monster is this? But then he smiled. He already knew Lin Feng's weakness. He retracted the beheading knife, and praised Lin Feng's deep inner strength. He dared to block it with his arm. Then he even flung it away, with only a superficial injury to his arm. Seeing this, Lord Pang's eyes widened in shock. His beheading knife can cut through iron like mud. In the nick of time, Lin Feng flashed behind him, and blocked the attack with his hand. How busy is this man? Facing a rapidly spinning blade, he should have reacted instinctively. His hand shielded himself, but he felt no pain. At that moment, Lin Feng shouted, fall back. However, Ing Dan couldn't react in time. However, I've heard that the poison immortal lineage has its meridians aligned but cannot dance. Speaking of this, he used the decapitation hoop to manipulate the blade and swung it at him. Then this will be easy. Seeing the blade flying towards him. You see it now, right? Masters are so unpredictable. If the statue leaves now, I'll let you off easy. But Pang Xunju grinned wickedly. Is that so? This expert is indeed extraordinary. Now you get it, right? However, at that moment, Elder Pang, who overheard the conversation, smiled slightly. His mother should have been startled. Her face covered in cold sweat. She spoke weakly. Turns out, you all just rely on your mouths. The usually timid little bunny must be angry now. He bared his fangs and roared angrily at him. Calm down. Talking trash is also part of surviving in this world. He must be eager to show off. I'm just afraid the respected lord won't last long under his hands. Lord Tang, you should think carefully before you make a move. Seeing that they still ignored him, Lin Feng decided to leave. His mother used to worry that people in the martial world liked to fight. That must be the notorious decapitation pin that can take people's heads as rumored. Lin Feng, who couldn't understand what they were saying, became impatient. What are you two whispering about for so long? Tang Xun glanced at Lin Feng. It seems this master can't wait to fight. Thank you, Ma Yingdan of the Deathflower clan. Yingdan took off his headscarf, indicating that white hair is troublesome. It can easily make someone recognizable. I didn't expect that the mysterious turtle from the Jianghu would actually be working at the Luo Phone Hall. Looking at the hairpin in his hand and the sharp blade on the rotating banner, revealing the ferocious scar underneath. Seeing the scar on his neck, Ma Yingdan couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Master Pang, noticing Ma Yingdan's expression, smiled and said, "It seems you recognize me, the Lockhead Demon." Then, he removed the headband from his head. Truly worthy of being the young master of the Poison Immortal clan. Too terrifying. This is clearly a demon. But then, he starts to smile. His backer has arrived. Master Pang appeared and untied the cloth around his neck. The powder scatters, but Hu Hai is nowhere to be seen. The two are puzzled. With such a big setup, did it end without even a fight? At this moment, Hu Hai is spitting ketchup, saying it's too powerful. At that moment, he exuded a commanding presence. Those who didn't know would think he was the main character. But the next second, he got punched in the face. He was instantly knocked back. At this moment, Lin Feng, coughing and waving away the ink powder with both hands, remarked that something seemed to have bumped into his hand just now, then scatters ink powder from his sleeve, instantly enveloping them within it. He then removed his eye mask. His unique eyes could only display their power in the dark. He immediately drew his weapon. Who has a screw loose, believes the words of someone who tried to take his life in the last lesson, and runs towards him without any defense. Sensing the approach, Hu Hai reveals an evil grin. He quietly instructed his men to invite Master Pang. He is the current Grandmaster of the Demon Palace, capable of shattering refined black iron, specializes in poppy-based hidden weapons, but it's exactly this kind of person. Hu Hai wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and told them it was just a joke. No acquaintance without a fight. He's even willing to give up 30% of the stolen goods to them, but this is just Hu Hai's stalling tactic. As someone from the Eagle Force, there's no way he'd give in so easily. I feel like I can't handle it. Maybe I should go back and inherit my billions instead. Yingdan was speechless after hearing that. Do you really think pretending like this is funny? But hearing Lin Feng's comment from Team 2 of Baoyuan, he kept patting his chest with one hand. You scared me to death. What happened? My brain hasn't even processed it yet. The world is too intense, too dangerous. He really is amazing. He remained so calm while countering the sneak attack. However, Lin Feng's face turned ashen. He exclaimed in terror. Gong Zhao's eyes immediately filled with tears. It was truly terrifying. Moreover, it seemed like he had already seen through my attack. His expression remained completely calm. What a frightening man. At this moment, someone who had come to his senses should have happily poked Lin Feng. In the blink of an eye, he jumped away from Lin Feng. Only then did he manage to regain his composure behind Hu Hai. I was trembling with fear. That ugly man is too powerful. He deflected my full-force sneak attack with just one finger. And when he used his power, his face looked like a demon's. At this moment, Bao Yuan Air had just landed. Upon witnessing this scene, he immediately felt a sense of dread. In Lin Feng's eyes at that moment, he was nothing but a demon from hell. Fortunately, it was Hu Hai's reminder. That brought him back to his senses. But Lin Feng was faster. He slightly tilted his head. With his left hand, he hooked his middle finger, and instantly reached toward the projectile. Then with a flick of his finger, he was sent flying. He holds his secret. The concealed weapon instantly appeared behind Lin Feng. With a snap, the hidden projectile shot toward Lin Feng. In an instant, it was right in front of him. Lin Feng presses down on Yingdan's little head to protect him. With one hand clenched into a fist, he suddenly smashes backward. He sends the big tree and the mysterious iron hammer flying. But this is just Yang Gong. Suddenly, from the nearby bushes, a figure darts out. It's the smug Bao Yuan Air. But actions always have consequences. Hu Hai spoke to Lin Feng to keep him steady, while signaling his men to prepare for a brutal fight. The chubby guy who received the order gets ready to choose the hammer. Then, with the speed of someone who has been single for 30 years, he throws everything towards Lin Feng. This guy looks like a villain. He joined a notorious sect, but harbored the heart of a hero. Knowing the sect's dirty dealings, Lin Feng refused to associate with them. He even stepped in to save the young master of the Mutian escort agency. He said he only investigated the Qingye society after hearing about the disappearance of its leader, and that people from Luofeng Hall had also appeared. That's why he went to look into the Qingye society. Knowing how formidable Luofeng Hall was, Lin Feng couldn't help but glance secretly in their direction. He saw that the escort agency had been completely defeated. They took control of the 6 southwestern states. They committed all kinds of atrocities. Hearing this, Lin Feng was so scared that tears streamed down his face. He heard Ying Dan continue speaking. Lin Feng claimed he didn't know, but one could tell it wasn't someone to be trifled with. Ying Dan could only explain with a look of disdain that Lufentang is what the common people call the Hammer Society. It started as a gang involved in robbery. Later, it gathered many experts from the demon path. At this moment, Hu Hai, calm and refined, respectfully said in Lin Feng's direction, "Which senior from the demon sect might you be, to have such refined taste in observing this trivial matter of our Luo Feng Hall?" Upon hearing Luo Feng Hall, the two were startled. However, one should ask how Lin Feng knew about Lufentang. These two are not simple. The hidden weapon was indeed thrown by Lin Feng. Aspiring to be a great hero, of course he had to intervene when injustice arose. However, his technique for using hidden weapons, as Ying Dan put it, "Your hidden weapon skills are so girly." The blind Hu Hai remarks that such strong magical energy is visible to the naked eye. Are these the two that Lord Pang mentioned? It turns out that before they set off, the side elder reminded them to pay attention to the newcomers, Lin Feng and Ying Dan. The fat man couldn't believe it. You should know that his weapon was made of mysterious iron. Ordinary swords and blades. The cuts leave no trace. I sensed the magical energy emanating from the forest. But the next second, he was confused. He saw the weapon already behind him. In a critical moment, a hidden weapon shattered the weapon. Seeing the broken weapon, the fat man, receiving the order, raised his weapon, muttering something about the brothers from the escort agency. "I'm coming to help you now." Then forcefully threw it toward the young master. Upon hearing this, the young master looked delighted. "To be careful. These bandits. Not an ordinary background." Wu Hai smiled, indicating he understood. Then smirked and signaled the fat man nearby to act. The members of the Qinjiahui, disguised as bandits, charged toward the people of Mutian escort agency with weapons in hand. Bao Yuaner was the first to engage the young master of the agency. The young master noticed the weapon in Bao Yuaner's hand. Terrified, he shouted, "The greedy ghost of Shanxi Temple's guarding technique." He then warned the members of Qinjiahui behind him. Everyone else quickly unsheathed their weapons. As they wondered what was happening, Hu Hai, the hall leader of Qingye society, thought it was a bit too early to make a move. But it didn't really matter anymore. They gave the signal to attack. The henchman nearby heard this and angrily said, "Bandits? What bandits? This is called robbing the rich to help the poor." This caught the attention of the guards from Mutian escort agency. They shouted and drew their swords. Lin Feng broke down and started to cry. Ying Dan smiled and said, "Now you should believe me." She also told him to stop crying. Seeing her eerie smile, Lin Feng could only accept his fate. It turns out they really are robbers. However, when Lin Feng arrived at the mission site, he realized something was off. Where's the prestigious organization they promised? How can it be that killing and plundering is the answer? It's a thief's hypocrisy, shouting to catch the thief. But he has a kind heart. Even stray cats are willing to approach him. He is also determined to become a great hero. Now, he has finally joined the prestigious Qingye Association that he has long dreamed of. And they entrusted him with important responsibilities. "Tonight, you'll find out." One of the gang members called out to them, and pointed to the black clothes in his hand, signaling for them to put them on. They say a person's face reflects their heart, but he was born with a wicked look. They also asked Lin Feng and Ying Dan to follow along and witness. Lin Feng immediately shouted with enthusiasm that the veins were cultivated. This left Lin Dan speechless. He then tugged on Lin Feng's sleeve. In a low voice, he said, "Didn't you ask me before how I would clash with Qingye? We will assist in escorting the merchant caravan they pass by." Then his expression darkened. "This is very important. I'm sure everyone already knows this." Then it was stated that the specific arrangements would be handled by Hu Haitang and Bao Yuanji. This Qingye society is even trickier than expected. Suddenly, Lin Feng beside him also joined in the shouting. He couldn't help but reach out his hand. "This is bad." The officer gestured for everyone to quiet down. Then the policy recently discussed with the Mutian escort agency. A wonderful life with beautiful wives and concubines. The audience's eyes gleamed with excitement. Their blood was boiling. They started shouting, "Qingye society." Seeing this, Ying Tang frowned deeply. In the hall, the people involved in the incident had started the rally as usual. The henchmen in the audience cheered. It turned out the brainwashing session was here. Two people went on stage to share how since joining the Qingye society, they have lived a life free of worries. Besides, being the only son of a wealthy family, he said 1,000 taels was a drop in the bucket. At this moment, I could only feel that Lin Feng was shining brightly. And then, looking at Lin Feng's face, I couldn't help but smile. Heaven is still quite fair. At this moment, a henchman informed them to go to the hall. Then, angrily pointing at the uniform he was wearing, he cursed. "We paid a total of 1,000 taels of silver. And all we got was this ridiculously ugly outfit." But Lin Feng, immersed in his hero dreams, thought the clothes looked great. And they even said Ying Dan is a hater. Ying Dan argued, "Yesterday, the pyramid scheme was so obvious. Plus, the person in charge is surnamed Pang. What a blatant clue. Then, with a face full of astonishment, he said, now that you mention it, I just remembered something. There are no ladies at Kinjiawi at all. Sure enough, Kinjiawi has problems. It's a scam to get something for nothing. How could Lin Feng, who struggled to join Kinjiawi, believe that? Shouldn't he have beaten Zhao Cheng? But now, there's no sense of involvement at all. Ding Dan isn't surprised though. With that face of his, can he really look like an ordinary person? But is Qingye society really righteous? At this moment, Lin Feng is changing into the Qingye uniform. Still so ordinary. In the story, the protagonist encountering Zhao Qing is determined to become a hero. After enduring countless hardships, he finally joined the prestigious Qingye society, the most renowned large-scale faction in the Huizhou area. After the government fell into neglect, it became the people's only refuge. If not for my extraordinary talent being somewhat limited, the monkey-like man, with tears in his eyes, happily admits his defeat wholeheartedly. This man, with a fierce and intimidating look, who trained in the Demon Palace, but after landing, both lie on the ground. The audience cheers. Then the tiger-style fighter shakily stands up. You are a worthy opponent. I almost lost to you. They charge at each other. In an instant, a black tiger steals the eye, and a monkey steals the peach. Both successfully hit their targets. Then they separate instantly. The Mountain Gate, I found that the martial arts contest for marriage was already in the final round. I heard someone using the tiger style exclaiming how I was forced into this situation. The one using the monkey style said they didn't expect to encounter a master like you. How about we settle this with one move? Alright, the two of them agreed and leaped into the air. But a man of the martial world must learn to face himself. From now on, just follow the organization and do your best. You can become a great hero like me. Then the scene from the beginning happened. Following Guan into Miss Qingye. Zhao Qing has indeed noticed a shortage of manpower. Lin Feng is still stubbornly arguing that he's not part of the demonic cult. However, Mr. Guan patted him on the shoulder and comforted him, saying, I understand. Eager to leave the darkness and embrace the light, right? I never said I was from the demonic sect, but the steward ignored him. It's alright. We don't discriminate against the demonic sect. So you want to join the Qingye Association, right? It turns out you're from the Qingye Society. My apologies, my apologies. The steward sighed and said, forget it. I know you people in the demonic sect don't care about such things. Lin Feng, confused, pointed to himself. Can you speak a little closer? Then, he saw the man, looking quite displeased, walk up to him. Seeing the man approach with an angry face, Lin Feng hurriedly stepped back, and clasped his hands in a fist salute. What brings you to the Qingye Association? If there's nothing urgent, please take a detour. Lin Feng couldn't hear what he was saying, so he could only shout, sorry. So, you want to seek refuge with the Qingye Association. Therefore, we need to deal with the carriage first. Then the two of them arrived at the main entrance of the entire line. Unexpectedly, a man in red appeared at that moment. He blocked their way. 12 was nowhere to be found. Terrified, he hurriedly searched through his bag, only to pull out paper and pen, and started writing a will. At that moment, 12 returned. He immediately got in the car, taking Ing Dan and speeding off toward the county. After traveling through the night, Ing Ning woke up yawning. The carriage had stopped in the wilderness. Then Ing Dan said she wanted to continue following 12. For someone who causes trouble like this, he simply replied with one sentence. But who knew Ing Dan would follow up with a soft and flirtatious hero? It hit him right in the heart. It turned out the woman's name was Ing Dan. She had been following her from the start, but when asked why she fought with Cheng Yi, she actually made 12 guess. Do all women like to guess? Terrified, he immediately hit the brakes. You have to stop and ask what's going on. The handsome 12 gently asked about the situation. But the woman in yellow remained indifferent, as if she didn't care. He had to change his expression to communicate with her. Then he and the woman in yellow took the gangster's carriage and left. After some conversation, 12 said he'd join the Qingye Society once they reached the county. But the woman told him the stolen carriage belonged to the Qingye Society. To his surprise, it was the woman in yellow who exposed him earlier, being robbed by bandits. 12 immediately jumped out from behind the tree, startling everyone. With just one intimidating move, he weaved through the group of thugs. Even the woman in yellow found it vicious after seeing it. With just one move, all the gangster's toe bones were shattered. But who would have thought he'd run into this female cat? Late at night, after serving the cat lady, he hurriedly escaped under the cover of darkness. But just as he reached the outskirts of town, he saw lights in the distance. Helpless, he had no choice but to hide behind a tree and watch. She shouted, "Is your demon palace really that powerful?" Before they could fight back, something even more unfortunate happened. A crowd of onlookers began to gather. To prevent the demon palace from being exposed, they had no choice but to hide in a dark alley. But when they picked up the token on the ground and looked, they realized they had hit the wrong person. However, neither of them had any intention of apologizing. They just turned around and left. Suddenly, a young girl wearing yellow and carrying a blue longsword appeared. The opponent even received a shadowless kick. Unable to use the Magic Palace's 12 techniques, he could only groan on the ground. It turns out these two were righteous fighters. They attacked him just to complete their goal of defeating 100 members of the demon sect, and level up to the ranger rank. A huge fist swung straight at his face. Just in the nick of time, 12 was about to draw his sword, but he couldn't expose the demon palace. In just a moment, his face took a solid punch. He hummed a little tune. He walked towards the door with a swagger, like he didn't recognize anyone. But suddenly, two people appeared, blocking his way. Without a word, he switched sides to the righteous. Although he looked suspicious, the old man still gave him a pass to roam the martial world. Looking at the token in his hand, he felt like the world was full of love again. The old man looked at the completed form. Hui's verification found no sect or affiliation. Self-taught. Master at the village entrance, Wild Bull Fist. He's really not from the demon sect. I can imagine. It wasn't easy to get the hero application. But with my background being so bloodthirsty, I'm probably going to be rejected. It seems I'll have to make something up. Little did he know that as soon as he took off his green hat, the old man asked if he was switching sides. Although that was what he said, he still handed over the registration form. However, after scribbling and crossing things out for a long time, he still couldn't fill out the form correctly. 12 cold breaths escaped, realizing things weren't good. You need to come up with a plan early. He hurriedly got himself a set of hero's attire. He arrived at the Martial Arts Association's hero registration office. Scherer finally arrived in Huaizhou with swollen, tear-stained eyes. Looking at the sign overhead, he couldn't help but laugh like a pig, but people nearby were gossiping. It turns out his fight with the knight using the Devil's Palace technique had spread here. After some discussion and explanation, the other party finally admitted it was a mistake. Feeling wronged, Scherer had no choice but to return to the inn and crawl under the covers, crying bitterly. 2 days later, the leader said with righteous indignation, "Is your nucleic acid test a green code?" This man was taken for quarantine at midnight by a group of heroes simply because he hadn't done a nucleic acid test upon entering the city. But upon closer inspection, the names on the wanted notice were all different. It turned out to be a little thief. Knowing I might not be able to win, I still rushed after him without hesitation. After a hard chase, I finally caught up. To my surprise, he was staring at me with a group of people. 12's eyes welled up. Tears flowed. I didn't use any magic at all. Why is everyone still afraid of me? But suddenly, a loud bang came from outside the house. I opened the window to take a look. The surrounding people fled in all directions, leaving only 12 standing there in shock. Hey, I wasn't making excuses, hey. It took a lot of effort to finally settle down at the inn. Recalling the scenes from earlier in the day, it was only a 3-day journey to Huaizhou. Thinking that the path of a hero would soon begin in Huaizhou, he couldn't help but feel overjoyed. However, he didn't expect that the child beside him would be so scared by his smile that they started crying. The child ran away while shouting, "This uncle wants to kill me." Yeah, I think so too. I cried in grievance. Being ugly is truly a sin. After 3 days away from home, 12 finally arrived in Tan County. He pulled out Baidu maps and took a look. I can only helplessly say, I was just passing by. I intervened to help. After sending the two away, I turned around. But I heard them whispering. That big guy just now was really scary. Look, it only took you 12 years. You've mastered all the magical skills. Heartbroken, you decided to wander the martial world alone. But the path of a hero is destined to be rocky because of your looks. For example, when encountering a robbery and drawing a knife to help, only to be mistaken for a black market deal. But he still heard his master arguing. At that time, I was struggling financially. Your father gave too much. I didn't think twice and quickly agreed. It mostly depends on your appearance. It's clear you have the makings of a prodigy, but only use them to save your life. Because I am the leader of the demon sect, and what you've learned are all demon sect techniques. He was struck like lightning, and his hope of becoming a hero was 80% shattered. In his youthful ignorance, he followed his master to train. Until a year ago, he finally mastered his skills. Just as he was asking his master to teach him the next technique, the master turned his back to him and sighed, "You've learned all the techniques." A man who dreams of becoming a righteous hero, but has the face of a fierce villain, and has been practicing demonic arts since childhood. His name is 12, and from a young age, he aspired to become a hero. But who knew his father would find him a master who was the leader of a demonic sect?